Brilliance Audio presents The Secrets of Us by Lucinda Berry, performed by Kate Rudd and Lauren Ezzo.
1. Crystal. I shut the bathroom door behind me and whisper-hiss into my phone. This better be important. My phone's been vibrating with Teresa's calls for the last 10 minutes. Judge Kern gave me the most annoyed look when I asked for a short recess, and she won't be pleased if I'm not back soon. I crouch down and quickly scan underneath the stalls for any signs of feet. There's none. Good. I'm alone. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Teresa gushes before I can get another word out. You know I wouldn't pull you out of trial if it wasn't important. It's at that moment that I register the urgency in her voice. I assumed her call had something to do with the Wilkins estate. We've been waiting on the settlement terms for months. My annoyance instantly vanishes and is replaced with worry. What's going on? It's Nicole. My chest tightens at the mention of my sister's name. Nicole? What's wrong with Nicole? Panic shoots through me. She's the first person on my must-get-caught-up-with list once this trial ends. It has consumed the last month of my life. I've barely talked to her or anyone else. But domestic violence divorce cases are like that. There's a mountain of paperwork waiting for me after the long, grueling hours spent in the courtroom. I pass out from exhaustion the minute my head hits the pillow each night. I'm sorry, Crystal. Teresa's voice carries the weight of her news. Just tell me what's going on, I demand, coming off snappier than I intended. She's at Wright Memorial Hospital. I jump in before she has a chance to finish. The hospital? What's she doing at the hospital? There was a fire at their house last night and, oh my God. I bring my hand up to my mouth. Is she okay? I whip around and exit through the door I just came through seconds ago. My heels click on the tiled floor as I hurry down the long corridor. Thick courtroom doors line each side of the hallway. Judge Kern is going to be furious that I disappeared in the middle of closing testimony, but I don't care. I hold back the urge to sprint as Teresa talks, because running will create a disturbance that will only draw attention to me and slow me down. She's not hurt. Well, at least not physically. She got out of the house in time. Aiden wasn't so lucky. He was trapped inside their bedroom and suffered severe smoke inhalation. He's at Wright, too, but he's in intensive care hooked up to a ventilator. Her throat catches with emotion. She's been my assistant for almost 10 years, so Nicole and her husband, Aiden, are like family to her. She probably knows more about their personal life than she does mine, since I spill more of their secrets than I do my own. What happened to Nicole? I love my brother-in-law, but only because he's married to my favorite person on the planet. I wave my way past the security officers at the parking garage entrance and push through the aluminum doors into the ramp, pressing the button on my fob and listening for the sound of my car. I never remember where I parked, and today isn't any different. This is where it gets weird. She lowers her voice like she might be somewhere close to people and doesn't want anyone to overhear what she's about to tell me. She's not at the main hospital like Aiden. She's at Riverside East. I stop in my tracks like I've slammed into a brick wall. The search for my car quickly forgotten at her shocking news. Riverside East is the psychiatric hospital on Wright Memorial's East Campus. What could have possibly landed her there? Dr. McGowan is the one who's been calling because he's been assigned to her case, Teresa explains. All he kept saying was that she was in a compromised mental state. A groan escapes my lips. Dr. McGowan is the last person I want working with my sister. He's the least approachable psychiatrist on the floor. He has no real interest in people and doesn't seem to understand them at all, so I have no clue why someone like him chose psychiatry. I'm familiar with most of the psychiatrists and nursing staff at Riverside East, since I specialize in family law and represent mostly women. Divorce is one of the top 3 most traumatic life experiences, and sometimes women crack under the emotional pressure. I've met plenty of my clients in Riverside East hospital rooms for the first time after they swallowed a bottle of pills or walked into the emergency department and asked to be admitted because they didn't know what else to do with themselves. I know, Teresa agrees. She's the type of person who easily slips into other people's shoes, so she shares my disdain for Dr. McGowan since he rarely shows empathy. He needs you to get down there and meet with him and someone from the hospital's legal team. Aiden's unable to make medical decisions for Nicole, and they need someone to speak on her behalf, given her current state. But I thought you said she wasn't hurt? None of this makes sense. My head swirls with possible scenarios, none of them good. I spot my car in the next lane over and hurry toward it. It's because of the charges they might file against her. Charges? I unlock the door and leap inside, quickly putting the car in reverse and pulling out. Teresa clears her throat. Arson and attempted murder, and I guess murder if Aiden doesn't make it. What? I almost hit a red truck coming out of its parking spot and force myself to focus on driving as I make my way out of the garage. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Dr. McGowan wouldn't give me any of the details. I barely got that out of him. He kept saying his scope of information was limited. Who even says that? Anyway, the police are claiming she started the fire because apparently she admitted it to the first responders as soon as they arrived on the scene. I shake my head, unwilling to let her words hold any truth. That's impossible. Nicole would never do anything like that. Never. Not only is she one of the most law-abiding citizens I know, but she's also madly in love with Aiden. They've been together over a decade, and she's as into him now as she was when they met. She can't stand being apart from him, and stays with me if he's away on business for more than a night, or makes me camp out over there with her until he gets back because she hates sleeping alone in the bed without him. I know, Teresa says, still on the verge of tears. He wants you to come down to the hospital as soon as possible and suggested you bring a lawyer with you. I flip on my hazard lights as the stoplight in front of me turns green and press my foot down on the gas pedal. I am a lawyer. I pull onto the freeway, quickly moving into the fast lane. And I've got her covered. I want to see her, I demand with my arms crossed against my chest, refusing to sit in the chair that Dr. McGowan keeps pointing at. He's on the other side of the table next to one of the hospital's attorneys, Robert Barnes. I want to talk to Nicole before having a conversation with anyone else. How am I supposed to make any decisions for her before doing that? She's on a 72-hour hold in isolation and unable to see anyone. Dr. McGowan repeats himself for the third time, as if I don't understand what that means and he's irritated with my lack of understanding. His dark hair is combed straight back, with a few thin strands stretched flat over a bald spot. He's wearing a crisp white shirt buttoned to the top with a dark tie and matching jacket. I've never seen him look so formal, and the gravity of the situation hits me in waves. I nod, doing my best to keep the frustration from showing on my face because I don't want to appear combative. These men control Nicole's fate right now. I understand the legalities of a 72-hour hold. However, I don't want to visit her from the perspective of a friend or family member. I want to speak with her as her attorney. Mr. Barnes shakes his head from his position at the head of the table. He's a big guy with a large pockmarked nose and small green eyes who didn't stand to greet me when I walked in the room. That's not going to happen for a myriad of reasons. 1, she's in no position to retain you as her attorney. And 2, I can't help myself. I have to interrupt. You keep saying that she isn't in any position to provide consent or make any kind of decisions, like she's an incompetent toddler. I understand she's gotten herself into something serious, but she still gets to have a say in what happens to her, no matter what kind of a state she's in. Perhaps we haven't been clear enough about Nicole's condition. Mr. Barnes's jaw is set. His eyes narrow even farther as he speaks. Nicole is currently in one of our seclusion rooms for her own safety and the safety of those around her. She's in 6-point restraints to keep her from harming herself. You have her tied up? I understand the formalities of trying to keep her safe, but come on. Fury lines my words. They can't treat her like she's some kind of animal. None of this is necessary. You're completely overreacting. I mentally flip through my former cases for any kind of precedent, but come up empty-handed. I've dealt with some pretty awful divorces, but never anything like this.
Ms. Benson, with all due respect, we don't put our patients in the seclusion rooms or in restraints unless it is absolutely necessary. It's always a last resort to keep them from hurting themselves or someone else. We couldn't keep her safe,
Mr. Barnes says, and folds his hands on the table like the matter's settled. I find that hard to believe. All of this is impossible to wrap my brain around. None of what they're describing fits with anything Nicole would say or do. And I know her better than anyone else. We're practically twins, since our birthdays are only 2 weeks apart.
It's true.
Dr. McGowan nods, making sure Mr. Barnes notices his support. He sits at his right, still waiting for me to take a seat on the other side of them.
Nicole bit one of our nurses on the forearm while she was taking her vital signs. Not only did she bite her, she did it hard enough to break the skin. In another incident, we released her to use the restroom, and she clawed at her own face deep enough to draw blood. That's when she was put in restraints.
He looks at me pointedly like he's daring me to disagree with him again. I pull the chair out from underneath the table and slowly sink into it, conceding defeat for the moment, because there's no way they're letting me see her today. I'll work on that tomorrow once everyone's had a chance to calm down. Take me through everything that happened, I say, shifting into investigative mode. I pull a pen and notebook out of my Maestro bag, grateful I grabbed it and took it with me when I left the courtroom earlier. All of us turn our attention to Dean Sparks, the detective assigned to the case. He introduced himself when I first arrived, but has been quiet from his position in the corner ever since, and I almost forgot he was there. He steps forward and clasps his hands in front of him. His brown hair is closely cropped, and he looks more like a soldier than a detective.
A fire in the bedroom triggered the Fishers' security alarm, and first responders were immediately dispatched to their home. When they arrived on the scene, they found Mrs. Fisher dancing on the front lawn, fully clothed and singing songs. She became agitated when they questioned her about the situation, and tried to attack the firefighters when they moved past her to rescue Aiden from the house. She jumped on one of their backs and had to be restrained by his partner until the police arrived. Her interference might have cost valuable minutes to Aiden's life. Each word is measured, careful, and deliberate, like his statement is being recorded as he rattles off the details. Upon entering the house, firefighters made their way to the bedroom where the fire was centralized. A desk had been placed in front of the Fishers' bedroom door that they had to push past in order to gain entry. Aiden was unconscious in front of the door. It appears he'd been trying to break through. Officers were still questioning Nicole and trying to calm her down when they brought Aiden out of the house. Paramedics immediately began working on him. At that point, she pulled away from the police and flung herself at the paramedics trying to save Aiden. According to their statements, she began attacking them and screaming for them to get off Aiden, that he was supposed to die. She ordered the firefighters to take him back inside.
None of this makes sense. I haven't stopped shaking my head since he started talking. Nicole would never hurt Aiden. He's the love of her life. Their story is a real-life fairy tale, and unlike most people's, it looks even better from the inside. It's more beautiful than their Instagram pictures. I have no idea what's going on, but there's got to be an explanation. Did she say anything else? Dr. McGowan and Mr. Barnes exchange a knowing look. What? Detective Sparks takes another step forward and looks me directly in the eyes.
She said Aiden deserved to die because he was a murderer.
2. Crystal. I've been in the hospital many times, but never on the intensive care ward. And the anxiety of the place assaults me as soon as the elevator doors open. There's nothing still. Everyone is in motion. Nurses sprint across the floor. Assistants in brightly colored scrubs scurry around after them. Doctors stand at every corner, chatting animatedly with each other in their white lab coats. Patients in wheelchairs, some on gurneys, are rushed past. There's a buzz of static electricity humming underneath all the frantic activity. The elevator lets out an annoying ding, signaling that the doors are going to close on me, and I jump out before they do, even though I want to stay inside. I stand motionless as the doors shut behind me. The receptionist area and U-shaped desk loom in front of me. ICU is spelled out in huge, intimidating letters above it. I'm rooted to my spot, unable to move, because every step I take in the direction of Aiden's room is another step toward making this nightmare a reality. Detective Sparks's words haunt every thought. Why would Nicole call Aiden a murderer? That doesn't make sense. None of this does. It's like I got the wind knocked out of me and I still can't get it back. I force myself to move, and the situation becomes more real with each hesitant step to the reception station. "Excuse me," I say to the nurse, typing into one of the many computers on the desk. "Yes?" She greets me half-heartedly without raising her eyes from her screen. Her fingers never stop moving on the keyboard. They glide with lightning speed. "I'm looking for my brother-in-law, Aiden Fisher. He was brought in this morning," I say quickly, wanting to get the irritating formality out of the way as much as she does. "I'm sorry," she says, even though she doesn't look sorry, only annoyed as she flips her long black hair over her shoulders. She grabs the coffee next to her and takes a quick drink. "Only immediate family members are allowed on the unit with the patient, and even then, it's a one-person limit." She points to the hallway on the right of the intersecting corridor. "There's a series of waiting rooms provided for family and friends down that way. Aiden's are in room 211B. "Thank you," I say. But she doesn't notice or respond, since she's already returned her focus to the computer in front of her. 211B is easy to find. I knock lightly on the door before going inside. The room is filled to standing room only. Aiden's younger sister, Janice, takes up an entire wall with her brood. Her 4 kids are bookended between her and her husband, Gary. The kids each have a backpack splayed open in front of them, with the contents spilling everywhere, and the youngest jumps up and down on her padded chair. She waves a Barbie doll in the air while her sister tries to grab it. More of Aiden's relatives fill the chairs on the other side of the room, and the rest stand in small clusters. The room smells like old French fries and dirty feet. A TV is mounted on the back wall, and an oval coffee table covered with Starbucks cups sits in the center of the room. Everyone stills at the sight of me. All conversation stops. "Hi," I say slowly as I stand in the doorway with all eyes on me. I didn't give any thought to my reception, but maybe I should have. There are lots of people in the room I don't recognize, so I focus my attention on Janice since she's the one I know best. "I just finished talking to Nicole's doctor and wanted to make sure that I came and checked on Aiden before I left. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Now I'm not so sure." "How's he doing?" Janice gives me a clipped nod. "Mom and Dad are in a meeting with his doctors right now to get the latest update, but from what we know so far, his lungs are filled with fluid, and he's started running a low-grade fever. The next 24 hours are critical." Her eyes fill with tears, and she shakes her head. "He barely made it out of there alive. We can't lose him, not after he fought so hard." "I'm so sorry." My words feel empty and flat, completely inadequate. I eye the room for any space, but almost every inch is taken, and nobody's moving to create a spot for me. Nicole always says Aiden has a close family, and most of them are here, watching me with hostility. His aunt is clutching her purse like I might steal it at any given moment. "This all just seems so unreal," I say after the silence stretches out and things grow even more uncomfortable. "I can't believe it's happening. They won't even let me see Nicole." "At least she'll have something to say when you do. Aiden's got a tube jabbed down his throat. That makes talking pretty difficult." Gary mutters underneath his breath, but it's still loud enough for me to hear, even though I pretend I don't. I'm sorry this is happening, I say again, because I don't know what else to say. Excuse me, Aiden's mom, Marlene, interrupts from behind me, and I cram myself against the doorframe to allow her into the waiting room. Shock distorts her face when she notices me, and she doesn't go any farther. What are you doing here? Her eyes are red and bloodshot from crying. Her husband, Saul, hovers behind her. I was meeting with Nicole's doctors and just, wanted to make sure Aiden was okay. I stumble over my words, caught off guard by her response to my presence. She's always been so nice to me. All of them have. They invite me to all their events, even though I never go, and send me Christmas cards each year like I'm part of the family too. Well, he's not, she snaps. Haven't you figured that out yet? You have a lot of nerve coming here. She waves her arms wildly, pointing around the room. You see all these people here? You see them? I nod, unable to look away or stop her tirade. You want to know why they're here? Do you? She takes a step closer to me. Her chest almost touches mine. Her small frame shakes with emotion. They've come to say their goodbyes because Aiden's doctors don't think he'll make it through the night. Did you know that? They think my son is going to die. And why is that? Janice jumps up and rushes to throw her arms around Marlene. Mom, just settle down. It's not good for you to get this worked up. Get this worked up! Marlene pushes Janice off her. My son might die, and her sister killed him. She shoves her finger into my chest. Your sister, she did this. We don't know what happened last night, I say quietly because I don't want to upset her further. But I'm not allowing them to pin the blame on Nicole unless we have more information. I know it looks bad for her, but how can they possibly think she tried to kill him? Maybe you don't know what happened last night, but we do. Marlene's lips curl with anger, and her eyes fill with disgust as Janice tries to pull her away from me. I always told Aiden he shouldn't marry her. Not with where you girls came from, she spits out. Nothing but poor white trash, both of you. I raise my hand to my face like she's slapped me, searching for an invisible mark. She laughs at my shocked expression. Oh, you didn't think I knew about that, did you? I know exactly where the two of you come from and the things you did. No good, white trash-looking girls. I always knew she'd find a way to bring my Aiden down. Her words hit me like bullets. Janice's mouth drops open in horror, but she makes no move to stop Marlene. People like you? She turns to scan the room and makes sure everyone is paying attention before shifting her eyes back to me. It doesn't matter how cleaned up you get on the outside. Your insides will always be dirty. You, Marlene? A man standing underneath the TV cuts in. Stop. Just stop. My lower lip trembles, but I won't cry in front of her. I'm not going to give her the satisfaction. I hold my bag against my chest like it's a shield against her. What? Marlene asks in mock surprise. This time I'm the one to cut her off, saying the only thing I came into the room to say, the only thing I keep saying, even though nobody is listening. I'm sorry. Just get out. Marlene shrinks before me as if the venom fueling her rage is slowly draining from her body. Saul wraps his arms around his wife to steady her, and Janice grips her waist to help him. I drop my gaze to the floor and gingerly move around them, then step outside the room and into the hallway. My head spins from the assault of Marlene's words. Nicole can't ever find out about this. Her worst fear has always been Aiden's family discovering the way we grew up and what happened there. It's mine, too. There's never been a way to hide that we were in foster care, since we're both without families except for each other and look nothing alike. Not to mention that we used it on every college application, hoping to win approval points in the overcomer category. Nicole told Aiden the same story we tell everyone else. Nicole's biological mother was a teenager who put her in foster care to give her a better life. I have an equally heartwarming story, and together we painted a beautiful rags-to-riches picture. We tell everyone our foster parents died in a tragic car accident during our freshman year in college. It garners pity rather than shame and packs our childhood in a nice box that everyone tends to leave alone afterward. We never worried about getting found out. And the story was so much nicer than the reality that eventually the made-up stories about our childhood easily rolled off our tongues while the real ones faded into the background. Until Aiden. Aiden's family is old money rich. His family owns one of the largest oil fields in West Texas and has over 300 acres of land, stretching across the state and into Louisiana. They'd been fine with her while they were dating, but marriage moved things to an entirely different level. They expected him to choose a certain caliber wife, and one who was raised by a drug addict mother, then spent the rest of her childhood on a foster farm filled with other messed-up kids, certainly didn't qualify. Nicole freaked out about getting discovered as soon as she and Aiden started talking marriage. I've always assured her that we'd be fine. As long as we kept our story straight, nobody ever had to find out. But what if Marlene did? Anxiety seizes my gut, and I tap the down button again, trying to hurry the elevator. I have to get out of here. The familiar surge of panic moves through me, and I press my toes against the bottoms of my shoes to center myself. Breathe. Everything is fine. Nobody knows anything. Usually that works, but not today. My heart only races faster until the elevator arrives, and I practically leap inside. The doors close before anyone has a chance to get in with me, and I breathe a sigh of relief to be sealed inside. What exactly does Marlene think she knows about us? And what about Aiden? Did she tell him? What if that has something to do with what happened last night? I don't have any answers to the questions circling on top of each other. There's only one thing I know for sure. Aiden's family can't be trusted. We're not in this tragedy together. 3. Crystal. I didn't sleep at all last night, and the pot of coffee I drank this morning twists my stomach in knots as I hurry down the hospital hallway searching for Mr. Barnes's office. Thankfully, he agreed to meet with me first thing this morning, because I'm not going another day without seeing Nicole. They might have been able to talk me out of it yesterday, but not today. I'm finding a way to see her no matter what he or anyone else says. Yesterday shook me to my core. I've never been so grateful for the distraction of work as I was when I got home from the hospital. I put on my favorite sweats and reheated leftover pasta from lunch before setting up camp on the dining room table. I've been in my condo for almost 3 years and only used the table to eat dinner on twice. The entire room functions like my office, even though the loft is supposed to be my office. I threw myself headlong into making phone calls. My first call was to the best criminal defense attorney in the county, William Jenkins. I didn't expect him to answer, so I left a lengthy message asking him to call me back as soon as possible. I emailed him and his legal team with the same information. I'm not taking any chances with Nicole's life. Brenda Wilkins came next. She was as angry as Judge Kern that I'd walked out of the trial yesterday at such a critical point. Brenda retained me 3 years ago after her cousin recommended me. Dysfunctional relationships tend to run in families, so most of my business comes from word-of-mouth advertising. But Brenda's case was much worse than her cousin's, and she had even less support. Mr. Wilkins drained every one of their financial accounts as soon as he found out she was leaving him. She hadn't even filed for divorce yet, and he cleaned them out, completely destroyed her financially. He refused to leave their house, so she'd left with nothing, and he was determined to make sure that was all she ever got. "What do you mean you have a family emergency?" she asked after I told her I was going to have to pass her case on to my colleague Mark for the time being and foreseeable future. I could hear the betrayal in her question, and none of my reassurances that she was in good hands did anything to comfort her. It was a devastating blow to her, and I can't blame her for being upset, but what choice do I have? Nicole needs me, and I can't be tied up in court for 8 hours every day. I have a sinking suspicion I won't get any more referrals from the Wilkins family. I spent the next 3 hours talking Mark through the logistics of her case. We both have solo practices, so we're each other's backup. I've filled in for him a few times, but this is the first time I've had to use him, since I rarely take vacations and almost never get sick. It was after 1 o'clock by the time we finished, and I was completely spent from the day. I'd been up for almost 20 hours and was hoping to fall asleep immediately, but my brain wouldn't let me. I couldn't get Marlene's words out of my head. I still can't. They've burrowed their way into my consciousness and won't let go. I'm still trying to shake them loose as I scan for Mr. Barnes's name on one of the placards lining the identical doors in the hallway. I finally spot his name and tap on the aluminum.
Come in,
he calls. He stands to greet me from behind his cluttered desk. Stacks of paperwork overflow in boxes scattered around the office floor. File folders lie on top of each other on the wooden desk. His computer is covered in yellow Post-it notes. One side of the room is lined with bookshelves holding law journals and thick textbooks. His Stanford degree hangs proudly on the wall behind him. He motions to the wooden chairs in front of the desk. I slide into the one on the right, crossing my legs and folding my hands on my lap, sitting up straight like I'm in court. Ready. Prepared. I'd like to speak with my client today, and if that's not possible, I insist on seeing her even if we're unable to speak. I skip all small talk and pretense of a social visit. There's no time for those things when Nicole's in trouble.
Well, Ms. Benson, it's like I explained to you yesterday. Your sister is not in any position to speak with anyone. She's incapacitated.
His skin hangs on his face like he's recently lost a lot of weight. He must have been really big before. Exactly. I nod my head in agreement. That's all the more reason that I need to see her. He knows I'm right. I'm retaining counsel on Nicole's behalf in case criminal charges are filed against her. I lock eyes with his. William Jenkins? You know him? Mr. Barnes stiffens in his chair and straightens his tie.
Yes, I'm familiar with him.
Of course he's heard of William. Everyone has. His face adorns all the billboards from Jackson Street to Oakland Avenue. I didn't come to play games. I expect to have formal documents to you by tomorrow, hopefully by the end of the day. Until then, I'm going to act on her behalf. He's no match for my years in the courtroom, when he spends most of his time behind an office desk.
Shift change finished on the unit right before you got here. And the head nurse informed me that Nicole had a very difficult night without any sleep. She became agitated numerous times and had to be sedated twice. Even under sedation, she still remained worked up. I'm not sure you understand the severity of your sister's condition, or the seriousness of her situation.
He rests his arms on top of the table. His sport coat sags on his shoulders like the skin on his face. A quick glance at his left hand reveals no ring. Probably recently divorced. That explains the weight loss. He hasn't even had time to buy new clothes, or maybe without a woman in his life telling him how to dress, he doesn't know that he needs to. Either way, he's in desperate need of skinny clothes to match his new frame. I'm fully aware of her situation and what needs to be done. I say with more confidence than I possess, but there's no way I'm letting him see that. Family law skirts criminal law, but the actual practice of them is like the differences between playing basketball and football. I lean forward in my chair. Look, Mr. Barnes, we both know I can get permission from a judge to see my sister in any capacity I choose. It's only a matter of filing the paperwork, and I'm more than willing to do that if I need to. In fact, I'm fully prepared to walk out of here and down to the courthouse. I give him my most serious face, the one that says I mean business, and hold up a folder filled with blank paper, but he doesn't know that. They could be signed affidavits. But that's not what I want to do because it wastes my and my sister's time, not to mention how much it will hold up the investigation if I have to go that route. Last night, I considered appealing to his compassionate side and building a case about how inhumane it was to keep Nicole locked up like an animal. But ultimately, I chose to play toward his lawyer self. His eyes bore into me as he considers what I said, and I jump at the opportunity when I sense the slight crack in his opposition. There's nobody who knows her better than me, and I'm sure I can get her to calm down. All anyone wants is for her to give a statement, and I'm the person who's most likely going to be able to get her to do that. It's true, and he knows it.
She's still in the seclusion room and in restraints,
he says, beginning to waver. I can see it in his posture, the way he's tilted his head to the side.
And I'm warning you, she's not pretty.
She's been in restraints for almost 24 hours. How can they keep her locked up for so long? Anger rises in my throat, but I swallow it back down because I'm getting somewhere with him and need to push forward. I'm not worried about her condition. The doctors can treat whatever condition she's dealing with. I'm worried about protecting her and her rights. That's what we do for each other. We've been doing it since my social worker brought me to Mrs. Wheeler's foster home in the middle of the night. I was 7 and terrified. They'd taken me from my mom and put me in other foster homes before, but never in the middle of the night, and never to a place so far from home. It was full of bad smells that made me want to gag. My mom had done something really bad this time, and somewhere within my 7-year-old mind, there was an awareness that I was never going back home. I'd never felt more alone. Nicole had been there for a few weeks before me, and our connection was instant as she peeked out from around the corner in the hallway. She gave me a wink and put her finger up to her lips. I latched on to her big green eyes and didn't waver, drowning out the horrible things Mrs. Wheeler and my social worker said about my mom and what she did to me. Normally, I was embarrassed when people talked about my mom because she couldn't help the way she was, and things weren't as bad as they made them out to be. It wasn't her fault she was allergic to the poison in the bottles she drank from, or that she got those terrible headaches she needed to take sleepy pills for. She loved me no matter what they said about her. Whenever we went to court, my cheeks burned with embarrassment while the judge spoke about her, and I'd wish for the floor to open up and swallow me whole, but it wasn't like that with Nicole. I could see it in her eyes. She was like me. "Come on, child, let me show you to your room," Mrs. Wheeler had said as she led me down a long hallway. She was a tall giant with linebacker shoulders and wore a nightgown down to her ankles, like they did in the Christmas storybooks. My legs were no match for her long strides, and I hurried to keep up with her. She stopped at a door on the right side of the hallway and peered down at me. Weird patches of skin dotted her face. "This is your room. You'll be sharing it with another foster child. Her name is Nicole, and she's asleep in one of the beds, so don't wake her up. You'll have a dresser for all your things, but don't worry about putting anything in it until tomorrow." I nodded, but I didn't need a dresser because I didn't have any things. My mom didn't believe in me having things. She said they were only one more thing to grow attached to and lose. "So be quiet and hurry on to bed. You girls get up at 6 for chores." I nodded again, trying to show her with my eyes that I understood as she opened the door and motioned for me to go into the room. She put her finger to her lips and gave me a stern look as an extra reminder to keep quiet. She didn't know how good I was at being quiet. I could move like a mouse. I showed her as I slid my way through the crack and stepped onto the wooden floor without making a sound. She quickly shut the door behind me. A nightlight plugged into the wall cast eerie shadows all over the room. The funny smell was trapped in here, too. There was a twin bed against the wall on one side of the room, and a small lump lay curled underneath the covers. I tiptoed to the other side of the room and took a seat on the bed. It was hard, not like my big comfy bed at home. My mom had gotten it from the neighbors after they moved and left it out on the street for somebody to pick up. She'd said we were lucky we came across it when we did, before someone else stumbled on it. I'd helped her drag it up to our apartment. I wished I would have brought my sleeping shirt, but my mom had screamed at the people who came to take me away that everything had to stay in the house. "You can't have my things," she'd screamed out the door as they drove away with me tucked into the back seat. I was one of her favorite things. She'd told me that once, so she must have been really mad that they took me. I peeled back the quilted bedspread and crawled underneath, fully clothed. I lay flat as a pancake and stiff as a board, just like I did when my mom had a friend sleeping over and she told me not to move a muscle, or she'd make me sleep in the closet again. The quilt stank and scratched my cheek. I strained my eyes to see the ceiling, missing my glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling at home. My mom had said they gave them away for free from KB Toys, but she might have done that thing where she put it in her pocket without giving money to the cashier. 26 stickers. 12 planets, 11 stars, 3 moons. That's what I counted every night before falling asleep. Every night. There was nothing on this ceiling. My heartbeat exploded in my ears, short spasming breaths from my chest. Oh no, it was coming, not again. I flipped around, facing the wall, and brought my knees up to my chest, squeezing them against me before it got too bad. My body shook no matter how hard I tried to keep it still. The funny smell made it worse. Tears burned my cheeks. I squeezed my eyes shut so tightly that bright spots danced in front of the lids, and I whispered the prayer from children's church about little sheep over and over again. A body slid into bed next to me. It was the little girl from across the room. She was warm. "It's okay. You're okay," she whispered quietly into the back of my head as she curled up next to me. We slept that way for the first week until Mrs. Wheeler caught us and threw a fit about it. She forbade us to sleep together, but that didn't stop us from finding our way to each other on our hardest nights and sneaking back to our own beds by morning. We were like that all the way through college and even into our adult lives if something really bad came up. That's why I can't stop wondering how Nicole got through last night alone. She must have been terrified. I push Mr. Barnes's files to the side and lean across his desk. "You have to let me see my sister." He lets out a deep breath, finally conceding. He flips his computer around and types for a few seconds.
"I let the nurses on the unit know that you are on Nicole's list of approved visitors and can visit outside of visiting hours. We can head up there now."
4. Crystal. Dr. McGowan meets us at the nurses' station on the locked psychiatric unit at Riverside East. None of the nurses on the unit wear scrubs. They dress in regular clothes in an attempt to normalize themselves and help patients feel more comfortable. But it has the opposite effect on me. It just gives the place a surreal quality, and it's never been more pronounced than today as Dr. McGowan grabs a file folder from behind the desk. He's nicely dressed again in a well-cut suit. He shakes hands with Mr. Barnes first and then me before dropping his arms to his side. His arms dangle past his waist like he still hasn't grown into them yet, even though he's got to be over 40.
"I appreciate you taking the time to bring Crystal to meet with Nicole,"
Mr. Barnes says, but there's no one more appreciative than me. Dr. McGowan gives him an eager nod.
"Of course, anything I can do to help. Are you coming with us?"
Mr. Barnes shakes his head.
"I've got meetings all morning. I'll speak with you later this afternoon."
He sticks his hand out to me.
"And I'm sure I'll be speaking with you as well."
I take his hand in mine, squeezing it firmly. Yes, we'll be in touch. Probably after this meeting, depending on how it goes. I walk next to Dr. McGowan as we head toward the community room. They call it the community room because it's the space where the patients gather when they're not in their rooms or other scheduled activities. It's supposed to function as a living room, but it couldn't be less homey or inviting. Mismatched furniture donated to the hospital fills the space and is arranged around the room in no particular order. The games lining the shelves are missing important parts, and none of the puzzles have all the pieces. The TV screen is still a big and bulky box standing on a table that sags from the pressure of it. I'm surprised when Dr. McGowan walks right past the room and keeps going down the long hallway. Are we going to her room? Hope stirs in my chest. Maybe they let her out during my meeting with Mr. Barnes. Dr. McGowan shakes his head.
She's still in the seclusion room.
How long can you keep her in there? There's got to be a limitation on the number of hours they can be locked up like that. When does it start being inhumane?
For as long as necessary.
I follow him to the end of the hallway, past bare walls and windowless rooms. The place is designed to be as unstimulating as possible, and anything with the potential to be a weapon has been removed. All the patient rooms are open, and I try not to look in case any of them are occupied. It feels like a huge invasion of their privacy. We make a left, followed by another right, and come to a much smaller nurses' station than the main one out front. Unlike that one, which bustles with activity and multiple nurses, this one is quiet, and there's only one nurse. He's tilted back in his chair and scrolling through his phone like he doesn't have a care in the world. He quickly uprights himself at the sight of Dr. McGowan.
This is Ms. Benson. She's the sister and attorney of Nicole Fisher.
Dr. McGowan places the file he brought from the nurse's station on the desk. The nurse scans me up and down, and I instantly feel exposed, even though I have nothing to hide. His inspection is unnerving in the same way that everything is unnerving about this place. A large whiteboard hangs on the wall beside him. I quickly spot Fisher with the notations 1X1 and SI next to it. What do the characters mean? I can't decipher the code.
Betty just finished cleaning her up,
the nurse informs Dr. McGowan as he hands him a different folder. How did she get dirty? I don't know what that means, but Dr. McGowan nods like it's completely normal. He takes the chart from him, and we walk around the desk to a tiny hallway with 3 metal doors flanking the right wall, each with a small window. Nicole is behind one of those doors, and the impulse to rush forward and fling open each one until I find her surges through me. But I keep myself in line next to Dr. McGowan. He stops in front of the last door.
This is her room.
He moves aside so that I can look into the window slit. Nobody's warnings could have prepared me for what meets my eyes. The room is a dirty white box with thick padded walls that remind me of an upholstered headboard. Even the ceiling is covered, as if someone could jump high enough to hit their head. There's nothing in the room except Nicole. She huddles in the corner in the fetal position, rocking in rapid, repetitive motions, back and forth, and back and forth. Her long red hair falls forward in ratty strings, obscuring her face. She slowly lifts her head like she senses our presence. The air leaves my lungs. Angry red welts mangle both sides of her pale face, making her appear ghoulish. She bends her hands to her cheeks like she might be about to dig into herself again. Dr. McGowan instinctively moves past me to open the door and restrain her, but she suddenly stops like she remembered what happened last time and drops her hands to her lap in slow motion.
Are you prepared to go inside?
He turns his attention to me. Yes, I answer, but I've never felt more unprepared for something. Dr. McGowan slides one of the key cards in front of the scanner, and the metal door swings open. He motions for me to go inside while he waits behind me. I take a cautious step forward. My movement startles her, and there's a weird sheen to her emerald green eyes as she stares at me without seeing me. The air is stuffy and smells like urine. I take another step forward and crouch to the ground so I'm not towering above her. Nikki? I say softly, using her childhood name, the one we used until our junior year in college when she decided she'd outgrown it. My voice immediately registers, and she jerks like there's been an electric shock to her system. Life moves into her eyes as her soul slips back into her body. Crystal? She lets out a small cry like she isn't sure I'm real and begins inching her way toward me, crawling on all fours in jerky movements. It's me, honey. I'm here now. I reach for her. Within seconds, she's in my arms and buries her face in my shirt, clawing at me like she can't get close enough. I put my arms around her and hold tight. Her frail body violently shakes against mine like she's freezing cold. I can feel the bones in her back. She's lost a lot of weight since the last time I saw her 2 weeks ago. It's okay. You're going to be okay. We'll figure this out together. I whisper into the top of her head. She crumples in my arms and whimpers like a wounded puppy, too weak to even cry. I've never heard sounds like that before, and thick emotions strangle my throat, making it hard to breathe. Tears prick my eyes. The camera mounted above Nicole's head with its blinking red light tells me it's recording everything we do. I can't turn into an emotional wreck for everyone to see, or it will damage my credibility. So I force my feelings down and focus on her. Don't worry, sweetie. I'm here now and I'm going to take care of you, I say as I rub circles on her back. I'm going to help you. I'm going to get you through this. Another whimper that breaks my heart, but I keep it together. The first thing we need to do is get you out of this room, okay? I wait for a response, but she keeps her head pressed into my chest and doesn't say anything. I can feel Dr. McGowan's presence behind us, reminding me that we're not alone. I choose my words carefully. They're going to keep you here until they believe you're safe. So you've got to show them that, okay? She pulls back. I'm not safe, she says in a pressured whisper as her eyes dart around the room without landing on anything. I'm not safe. You're not safe. Nobody's safe. Her voice grows louder with each word. They're still out there. They took Aiden. Her voice wavers with hysteria. I've never seen her look so terrified. I lean in closer. Who is still out there? She gives a quick nod and mouths, Help, Aiden. What happened to Aiden, Nicole? Her eyes widen. She rubs her hands up and down her arms like she's trying to keep warm even though she's sweating. Her face grimaces and her tongue jerks out like a lizard's. For a second, I wonder if she's choking. But just as I'm about to react, she snaps it back inside, then puts her wrist up to her mouth like she's going to bite it. I instinctively bat her hand away and cry, Stop that! What are you doing? We have to get out of here. They're coming. He told them. I know he did, she hisses, fixing her eyes on Dr. McGowan blocking the doorway behind us. We can't do that right now, I say in an even tone, trying to keep her calm. I'm going to get you out of here as quickly as I can, but I'm going to need your cooperation to do that. I want you to... She shakes her head, interrupting me. No. She leaps to her feet and flattens herself against the wall. Her eyes dance wildly around the room. Why are you looking at me like that? I like your tie. I want it for my collection. A pretty bow with a present for the top. You're still staring at me. Stop! You see? She turns her head to the side like she's in a two-way conversation with someone, but there's nobody there. The yellow rainbow's on his head. Just please, go away. He can't play that song.
Nicole, I'm going to ask you to settle down.
Dr. McGowan breaks in, speaking for the first time since he unlocked the door and let me inside. His voice makes something within her snap, and she lets out a piercing scream. She brings both her hands up to protect her face against an invisible threat. I step forward and reach for her. She whirls around and slaps me so hard that it hurls me backward. A male attendant appears from out of nowhere and is upon us instantly, stepping around me. He yanks Nicole to her feet in one swoop and pins both her arms behind her back. She arches against him and lets out a blood-curdling scream, neck muscles strained, spit flying from her mouth. I slide back against the wall, stunned, as I watch her writhe and scream against him until I can't stand it anymore. Let go of her! I shriek wildly. She didn't mean to hurt me. Let go of her, please! I can't keep the desperation out of my voice. Another attendant appears in the doorway next to Dr. McGowan. He stands next to him, and they both watch Nicole as she kicks at the other attendant's shins. He lifts her up like she weighs nothing. She howls. Please, she's just scared. Let her go, I beg, unable to keep the tears from streaming down my face. Dr. McGowan places his hand on my shoulder and pulls me toward the door.
This isn't helping. It's time for us to go.
I pace the hospital parking lot, waiting for Dr. McGowan's text. He promised to text as soon as Nicole's tests are finished and she's on the unit again. Everyone that gets admitted receives a full medical exam, a psychological evaluation, and an MRI and a series of blood draws to evaluate potential culprits for their symptoms, so it'll be a while before she's done. He had to practically pull me away from her room as she wrestled with the attendants. I thought those padded rooms were supposed to be soundproof, but her screams followed us all the way down the hallway and into Dr. McGowan's office. I couldn't stop crying, and there wasn't anywhere to hide, which only made me cry harder. Dr. McGowan kept handing me Kleenex and patting me awkwardly on the back until I finally pulled myself together. He explained that Nicole's facial grimacing is because of the Haldol they're giving her. I Googled it as soon as I got out here and found out it's a heavy-duty medication for psychosis. Calling her psychotic feels wrong, but it's the only description that fits what I saw today. I don't know how it's possible to go from the person she was to someone who's unrecognizable in a matter of weeks. And I keep replaying the scene from that horrible room over and over again. I wish there was something to do to distract me. When there's a crisis, I hate sitting around doing nothing. There has to be something I can do. Maybe I can sneak onto the ICU without anyone in Aiden's family seeing me and check on how he's doing, since I'm dying to know. It's been radio silence from his family, and I'm too scared to text any of them. But the nurses might give me an update if I explain the situation, especially after I inform them that I'm Nicole's lawyer. At least it'll give me something to do while I wait. I turn around and head back inside just as Detective Sparks is leaving the building. I look down and move toward the other glass door, hoping he won't recognize me, but it's too late.
"Hello, Crystal,"
he says, stepping in front of me so there's no way around him and nowhere to hide. His button-down shirt is perfectly tucked into his wrinkle-free pants and doesn't match his unshaven face. "Oh, hey, hi," I respond with enthusiasm like I wasn't doing my best to avoid him.
"This is my lucky day. You're one of the people on my list to call, so I'm really glad I ran into you,"
he says with a smile, revealing slightly crooked teeth in the front.
"Maybe I should buy a lottery ticket."
I'm not amused. He's the last person I want to see or talk to. I don't want anything to do with anyone who's legally investigating Nicole until I speak with an attorney. I give him a polite smile so I don't appear rude.
"Are you going up to see Nicole?"
he asks. I shake my head. I saw her this morning. He slides his hands into his front pockets and waits for me to say more, but I keep quiet, fully aware of his tricks. He's like a psychologist. Most people are uncomfortable when presented with silence and automatically start talking just to fill up the space, but not me. I can sit in silence for days if I need to.
"And how was she?"
he asks after I don't provide any more information, and the silence grows longer than even he's comfortable with. His stare pierces me with so much concern that I almost start talking, but I force myself to count to 10 before I do. It's an old trick I learned in graduate school. She's definitely had better days.
"Any luck getting her to talk about what happened?"
Does he really expect me to answer that question? How's Aiden? I ask.
"He's definitely had better days,"
he says, lobbing my vague response back to me as if we're engaged in a tennis match. His lips twitch with a slight smile before returning to their straight line to match his stoic face. Do they think he's going to make it? That's all that really matters. Everything else can be dealt with.
"The doctors are far more optimistic about his recovery this morning than they were yesterday."
Relief floods my body. Thank you, I say, acknowledging that he did a nice thing by giving me information he could have easily kept to himself. Should I tell Nicole? Will it help her to hear that he's getting better or make things worse? She hasn't said anything sensible about him, so there's no way to know what the information will do.
"It doesn't change the fact that somebody tried to kill him, though,"
he says, squaring his shoulders. Maybe. I shrug noncommittally. Something happened in that house for sure. But the two people that were there can't tell us what happened, and until that changes, I'm not willing to jump to any conclusions. He raises his hands in a peaceful gesture.
Hey, I'm not either. Believe me, all I'm trying to do is read the evidence. And the evidence shows pretty strongly that it was an intentional fire set by your sister.
Every one of my muscles tenses. Dread fills my gut. Hearing a detective announce it is jarring. He doesn't give me a chance to recover before dropping the next bomb.
The clothes she wore that night are covered in gasoline, which is the same accelerant used to start the fire. Her fingerprints are all over the lighter.
He holds a finger up for each piece of evidence he recounts.
Not to mention that the lighter was found in her possession.
Where'd they find the lighter? I interrupt, fixated on that detail as if it matters or means anything significant.
In the pocket of her jeans.
He gives his words a chance to sink in before continuing.
The fact that she made it out of the house before he did means that she was most likely the one who put the desk in front of the door. And
his voice slows as he drops the final damning fact.
She admitted to doing it.
Well, no offense, but you can't really trust anything that's coming out of her mouth right now. I raise my eyebrows at him and cock my head to the side. He knows I've got a point. Besides, all of that may be true, and it still doesn't mean that someone else wasn't there and made her do it. 5. Crystal. Dr. McGowan stands by my side as I peer through the slit in the thick metal door of the seclusion room. Nicole looks peaceful. She's curled into the same corner as before, hugging her legs against her chest in a tight ball. Her morning tests stretched into the afternoon. It's almost 3, and all I've done is twist myself in knots, running through 100 different scenarios of what might have happened, especially after running into Detective Sparks. William hasn't returned my call or replied to my email. I pulled Teresa off everything else to focus on finding other top criminal attorneys, because we need a plan B in case he doesn't work out, or is too swamped to take on Nicole's case. I stayed in the parking lot and didn't go back inside the hospital after my confrontation with Detective Sparks. My condo is only a few miles from the hospital, and I could have gone home, but I wanted to be near her. I want her to sense my presence even if I can't be with her physically, and 3 miles is too far for her to feel me. There are plenty of places to sit and wait comfortably in the hospital, but I don't like hospitals. I don't care how nice Dr. McGowan says the cafeteria is. I found a comfortable spot on the grass underneath a tree with plenty of shade where I could wait things out. I spent most of my time scrolling through social media and trying to get a read on what people are saying about Nicole and Aiden, since their story is officially out. It was only a matter of time. Always is. In a town the size of Belmont, news travels fast, and it travels at lightning speed when it includes a woman burning her house down with her husband in it. There aren't any reporters or media at the hospital yet, but it's only a matter of time before the news vans start showing up. Teresa told me they're already lining the sides of Nicole's street and blocking the intersection before their house. This is the type of news the media loves to feast on. They'll sink their teeth into Nicole's story like it's an expensive steak and won't let go until they've devoured every bite. I've had lots of experience with the press. High-profile divorces get lots of publicity in small towns, so I spend hours coaching my clients on how to deal with the media. Thankfully, the hospital security will keep them from stepping foot inside here. I turn to look at Dr. McGowan. Will you tell her when she wakes up that I was here? I hate not being able to talk to her or give her a hug, but she needs sleep more than anything else right now. He gives me a clipped nod, then goes back to his phone. His fingers fly on the screen as we leave the seclusion room hallway and head toward the psychiatrist's offices. The walls on this side of the unit are painted an institutional blue because someone once said that blue was a calming color. It only makes everything more distorted. Psychiatric wards were originally called asylums, but there's nothing soothing or safe about this place. Dr. McGowan's office is immaculate, Clean, pristine, and orderly. There are no papers floating around or stacked in haphazard piles, like there are in Mr. Barnes's office downstairs. There's not even a pencil or pen laying out. 2 prints hang on each side of the window behind his desk. He takes a seat in the black leather chair behind the desk, while I take one of the upholstered office chairs in front of it. He lays his hands out in front of him. "What's wrong with Nicole?" I blurt out, eager for answers since I've been waiting all day for them.
She's clearly in the throes of a psychotic episode. Her symptoms match the classic signs of what we see in someone who is experiencing psychosis: hallucinations, paranoia, delusions, tangential thinking, and difficulty distinguishing what's real from what's not. Her distorted cognitions are coupled with periods of mania and heightened anxiety, which makes her even harder to evaluate and assess. Her primary delusions center around Aiden. It appears she's convinced that he's not her real husband.
He wears a neutral expression as he speaks. But I don't understand. How does that happen? She was fine when I saw her 2 weeks ago.
We're not sure yet. Figuring out the cause of a patient's psychosis is difficult and complex, especially since there usually isn't a singular cause.
He explains as he pulls a file from one of the desk drawers and places it on top of his clean desk.
Sometimes individuals experience psychosis following seizure activity, or because of an infection in their blood that's traveled to their brain. But her EEG and blood work came back completely normal. The only thing flagged on her blood work was mild dehydration, and that's an easy fix. We also look for any lesions on the brain as an explanation, but there weren't any abnormalities on her MRI. However, we've scheduled a follow-up CAT scan for her tomorrow because sometimes CAT scans pick up on things that the MRI missed. Her psychological treatment and evaluation will be ongoing while we work on finding the right diagnosis to explain her symptoms. That can take time, and things might be up and down with her until we do.
He pauses, giving me a chance to catch up and making sure I'm digesting all the information. I nod for him to continue.
She did, however, fail both her neurological exam and her mental status exam.
He pulls out a piece of paper from the file and slides it across the desk to me. I pick it up and examine what looks like a preschooler's drawing of a clock. The circle is lopsided and misshapen like a kidney bean. The hands are on one side of the clock, and all the digits that would normally circle the clock are bunched up together in the upper corner. I've never seen anything like it. I hand it back to him, confused. He sets it on his desk and points to it as he speaks.
This is just one of the many tests the neurologist gave Nicole this afternoon. It's called the clock drawing test, and most people think of it as a screening tool for dementia. But we use it to look for other impairments in cognitive ability too.
I don't need to be a psychiatrist to see that she failed the test.
We gave her other tests that clearly demonstrated similar cognitive impairments. She also isn't oriented to time and space.
I cock my head to the side and eye him quizzically, since his language has suddenly shifted into what sounds like science fiction talk. He lets out a small smile before quickly returning to his stoic expression.
My apologies. Sometimes I can get carried away in my explanations, and I forget that not everyone understands what I'm talking about.
Any other day, his statement might have insulted my intelligence. But stopping him because I was offended and wanted to prove how smart I was would only slow him down. So I allow him to continue uninterrupted.
What that means is that Nicole doesn't know where she's at, and she's unable to identify the correct day or date. She's unable to answer basic questions about herself or current events.
So where does all that leave us? I ask.
There are other differential diagnoses we haven't explored yet that may explain her psychosis.
Like?
It's possible her symptoms could be due to something more organic. So, for instance, she might have had a stroke or a blood clot, some kind of injury to her brain. Perhaps she has a viral infection. Viral encephalitis is a definite rule-out. Mononucleosis is another option.
He speaks in a clinical tone that I always mistook as uncaring and lacking compassion. But I appreciate his candidness now as he rattles off the facts without emotion. At least we haven't run out of options. What do we do next?
Our main priority is to stabilize her. Medication is tricky, and without a formal diagnosis, it can be hard to find the right combination to treat her symptoms. But we'll get there. In the meantime, we'll engage in follow-up testing. I'll be sending her blood work out for a full autoimmune panel workup, and we've already sent samples off to infectious diseases. Those results should be back within the next 48 hours.
He consults his notes before continuing, double-checking his facts.
We'll have to wait and see what the CAT scans show tomorrow. Hopefully they will point to something helpful in aiding our diagnosis.
I let out a deep breath. Is there anything I can do? I just feel so powerless, and there's nothing I hate more than feeling powerless, especially when it comes to Nicole.
Can you think of any time in Nicole's history that she might have demonstrated difficulty maintaining her grip on reality?
The room shrinks, then spins, leaving me dizzy. I will my face blank. She had a tough time when we were 17, but it was nothing like this. And besides, our lives depend on us keeping that summer a secret. I hate lying, but sometimes there's no other choice. I raise my eyes to meet his and shake my head. No, she's never had any kind of mental illness.
6. Nicole. Then. Mrs. Wheeler's daughter, Veronica, storms ahead of me and Crystal on our way home from school. She's stomping and kicking up dust behind her on the gravel road. She's been on a mission since we passed the Pattersons' house. That's when we're officially out of town and closer to home than we are school. Her arms swing like machetes in quick, jerky motions, like pumping them harder will make her short legs go faster. How bad was it? I whisper to Crystal out of the corner of my mouth when Veronica's far enough ahead so she can't hear me. She hates when we talk about how they bully her. How many times have we been through this crap since school started? 5? 6? I've lost count, but I've had enough. Our junior year in high school is supposed to be fun. I was late for PE and missed all the drama because I was meeting with Mr. Peltier about doing extra credit in math. I got a B on our last test, and I've been doing whatever I can to bring my grade up. Most people would be happy with B's, but this year's transcripts are the ones colleges look at the most, so I need to make sure I get straight A's if I want any chance at an academic scholarship. I should have just skipped PE and gone straight to English, but I didn't. And I knew something was going on as soon as I swung open the locker room door. Nobody was around. Just laughter coming from the back. I followed the sounds like an idiot, even though I knew what I'd find. And I did. There they were, Whitney and the hit girls forming a circle around someone on the floor. People swarmed in like vultures to watch, like they always do. Sometimes they clap. It makes me sick. I hate people getting picked on. Whitney and the Hit Girls rule our school. They named themselves and won't tell anyone outside of their circle what the acronym stands for. The teachers either play along with them or look the other way. Crystal and I avoid them at all cost, and for the most part, they leave us alone. But Veronica's not so lucky. She's their favorite target, and the locker room is one of their prime spots to torture her. I knew it was her on the floor, and I got out of there as fast as I could before anyone saw me. It was awful, Crystal says, keeping her eyes straight ahead and barely moving her lips while she speaks. We perfected the art of pretending we aren't talking to each other years ago. They were plastered everywhere on her locker. So disgusting. They were already up when you got there? Word about what happened spread like wildfire, and it wasn't long before everyone knew that someone had squirted maxi pads with ketchup and taped them all over Veronica's locker. She nods, tucking her long hair behind her ears. Her eyes are glued on Veronica like she might turn around and attack us at any time, but we're safe until we get home. I was one of the first ones in there, and trust me, I wanted to take them down before anyone saw them so we could avoid this entire deal, but there was no way. If it had just been the pads, I could have easily grabbed them and thrown them into the trash, but I couldn't because of the ketchup everywhere. I tugged at a corner of one of the pads and a huge glob fell on the ground. I just stood there. She couldn't go anywhere since her locker is right next to Veronica's. Ever since we started high school, Coach has assigned us 3 lockers next to each other, like all the other siblings, even though our last names don't match. It's probably also why they always put us in the back, because we don't fit in the alphabet. It's so stupid, and only makes Veronica an even easier target. We'll be getting punished for this one big time because she hates when there's a crowd, and this one was more than just one grade. Seniors were there too. She probably spent all last period plotting the terrible things she'll do to us. We're going to have to be extra careful tonight. Full alert mode. This is going to screw up my plans with Travis, I whine, trying to sound pathetic enough so that she'll feel sorry for me. Travis and I were supposed to hang out after we finished our homework, but that's definitely not happening. Veronica will have talked Mrs. Wheeler into punishing us by the time we're through the front door, and the first rule of punishment is always being banished to your room immediately following dinner, with lights out at 8. Of course, we are the only ones who ever get the punishment, since Veronica's never been punished a day in her life. Crystal rolls her eyes dramatically at the mention of Travis. I punch her in the arm. I don't care, he's cute. He's dumb, she says, like she does every time we talk about him. He doesn't even read books. So, not everybody has to like reading as much as I do. I roll my eyes right back at her. I'm a freakishly obsessive reader. I can easily plow through 2 books a day if I have the time. All summer long, I wait for people's garage sales to finish so I can swoop in on all the unsold boxes of books they give away at the end.
This is the end of disc number 1. Please insert disc number 2. This is disc number 2.
Yes, but someone that dates you probably should. She gives me a knowing look. You act like I have so many options, like boys are just lining up at my door to meet me. This shuts her up. She knows I have a point. I'm boy crazy. I'll be the first to admit it. It started in 2nd grade when I spent every recess chasing Joey Matzdorf around the playground trying to kiss him. But just because I like boys doesn't mean they like me. I'm not the type of girl boys go for around here, and I definitely don't have the look. Small-town Iowa boys like girls with blonde hair and blue eyes. My orangish red hair sticks out even more than my Goodwill clothes. There's only one other redhead in our entire school, but it's not the same. Her hair's a pretty red, and I wish I could dye mine to match hers, but dyeing hair is against Mrs. Wheeler's rules. Even though I have no idea why, she could definitely use some brown color on all those gray roots. Some of her rules make sense, like no one is allowed to leave their boots in the entryway during the winter, or all the trash bins have to be taken out every Monday morning. There's no way to do it behind her back without getting caught. Showing up at dinner with pretty red hair would be obvious, and I'm too afraid she'd make me shave my head for breaking the rules. So, I'm stuck with my ugly, brassy hair until I'm 18. Just like I'm stuck with Veronica until then. It's not like I'm going to marry Travis or anything. He's only my starter boyfriend, and I think he's totally fine for a starter boyfriend, even if he's kind of dumb. I actually don't mind it all that much, because it makes it easier to practice things with him. I look at it like he's preparing me for when my first real boyfriend comes along. Crystal bursts out laughing at my explanation. But I'm being serious. Someday, my Prince Charming is going to come along, and when he does, I want to be ready for him. Sometimes you only get one shot at true love. So I'm practicing, just like we do before our track meets. I'll make all my big mistakes with the ones I don't really care about, so I don't screw things up with the right one. But I don't expect Crystal to understand that. She doesn't care anything about boys. All she's focused on is getting us out of here and making sure we don't end up like our birth moms. The farm comes into view as we pass the Stevens' horses. Inky and Schlotsky are out in their pens. Those aren't their real names, just the ones Crystal and I gave them when we were 8 and used to sneak down to play with them every day during the summer. We thought their names were hilarious, and it doesn't seem right to give them better ones now. They love being petted, and since we have every other possible animal on the farm but horses, we stop to love on them most days. But not today. Obviously, not stopping today. Crystal quits laughing about me calling Travis my starter boyfriend and turns serious again. What do you think she'll do? That's the burning question of our childhood. What will Veronica do? It's an impossible question to answer because you never know what she'll do or when she'll strike. Everything they do to her at school, she takes out on us at home, like it's somehow our fault she doesn't fit in. Her system for righting the wrongs doesn't make any sense either, but it hurts my brain trying to figure her out. We used to be naive and worked so hard at getting her to like us. I mean, it could literally be the 3 of us if she wanted it that way, since she's barely a year younger than us. We didn't have to be sister twins. We could have been triplets. It's not like we ever excluded her. We were always trying to include her with things and used to apologize for what the kids did to her, going on and on about how amazing she was or how great she was. Lots of the stuff we said wasn't exactly true, because she's not an easy person to like, but it didn't matter anyway. Saying nice things and being kind only made her more pissed off. So, we stopped. Just like we stopped trying to make them leave her alone at school. Because believe me, we tried. Kids have bullied her since I came to live with the Wheelers in 2nd grade and Veronica was in 1st. She's always been an easy target because she's so weird and socially awkward. She never says the right thing and she makes these weird grunting noises under her breath that I don't even think she knows she's doing. It doesn't help that she doesn't dress right and smells like the farm. Not that me and Crystal don't smell like the same farm, but we're good in sports. And we spend hours combing through the clothes at Goodwill for cool outfits so we don't stand out. People want us on their teams, so that saves us from most of the bullying by Whitney and her crew. Always has. Their teasing used to be just kid stuff. They'd try to trip her, call her stinky pig and snort when she went by, but it wasn't anything that other kids didn't get too. They spread their meanness like an equal opportunity plague. That's just how they were. But things took a bad turn in 6th grade. Ben's the male version of Whitney, entitled and privileged, except he's over 6 feet tall and punches way harder than she does. Whitney's petite and blonde. He's bulky and brown. Nobody's safe from his radar. He calls me and Crystal Stick 1 and Stick 2, and that's just fine with us. Usually people get labeled way worse, and once you've been labeled by Ben, it's almost impossible to get rid of. His labels stick. Ben and Whitney teamed up to basically rule the school, and things haven't been the same since. Veronica is mean and vindictive, and she can be just as cruel as Whitney, but at least she has her reasons, even if her reasons are totally screwed up. Whitney likes to hurt people on purpose and for no reason. She gets a sick thrill out of it, and her sicko meter was triggered during the 2nd week of school when she decided to throw a spaghetti noodle at Veronica during lunch. It hit her face and stuck. Everyone laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen, just like they always do. Because no matter how bad you feel for the person getting picked on, you're glad it's not you, and you'll do anything to keep it that way. Veronica was embarrassed, but it seemed harmless. Until Ben threw something at her the next day, and then it was game on. Every day, kids took turns throwing food at her. They developed a system for awarding points based on the degree of difficulty with the shot and the type of food used. Nobody from other tables threw food, but we all clapped and cheered while they did. Veronica started faking sick so she could miss school, and I felt so bad for her, but I didn't know what to do or how to help her, even though I wanted to. I started thinking it was never going to end, but then everything came to a head after one of the school cafeteria workers alerted the principal about what was going on. They had enough after one of Whitney's gang ran up behind Veronica and dumped the insides of an entire trash can on her head. The principal called Mrs. Wheeler and told her about the incident. Mrs. Wheeler was furious, and Veronica was mortified. What happens to her at school is her biggest secret with her mom. She has to maintain her image as the golden child, the miracle girl who can do no wrong, and I totally get why. Mrs. Wheeler tells anyone who will listen, which means I've heard the story like 10,000 times, about how she and Mr. Wheeler started trying to get pregnant when they were 20 and had nothing but problems. All their failed pregnancies are buried in small graves behind our house, which I avoid whenever I'm on that side of the yard. Eventually, they gave up on having kids. Mrs. Wheeler thought she was in menopause when she found out she was pregnant at 42. That's why Mrs. Wheeler doesn't see Veronica the way everyone else does. In her eyes, she's the blonde-haired and blue-eyed little darling who she waited over 20 years for. In reality, her hair isn't anywhere near blonde. Some people call it dirty blonde, but I'd call it mousy brown. And her eyes aren't blue. They're a boring, murky brown. But who cares about her looks? There are plenty of ugly people, and others like them just fine. It's her personality that's the worst part of her, and I'm pretty sure you can't change that. She's never happy, like never. I've only seen her smile a handful of times, and it's always because someone's making her do it. Most of the time, her lips are set in a thin line. I mean, she's scowling in her baby pictures. What does that tell you? I've never seen Mrs. Wheeler get so mad as she was the day she found out about the cafeteria, not even when the butcher ripped her off over the beef order. I could see her pulse throbbing in her temple, and Crystal thought she was going to have a heart attack because of the way she paced around the living room that night, with her eyes bulging out. We were all shocked when she showed up at lunch the next day and sat next to Veronica. She did it for the entire week, no matter how much Veronica begged her not to. And Veronica begged. I heard her crying about it to Mrs. Wheeler in her bedroom. That's where they go for all their private talks, and it's the only time Veronica ever cries. It's totally fake, because I'm not sure she knows how to cry for real. But Mrs. Wheeler was determined to go, and when her mind is made up about something, there's no changing it. She was making a statement. If the school couldn't protect her daughter, she would. They stopped throwing food at her in the cafeteria, but their bullying got way worse instead of better. And it hasn't stopped. We reach the end of the driveway and watch as Veronica runs up the porch and into the house. I grab Crystal's hand and turn to look at her. I know every inch of her face. From the scar on her forehead that she got from flipping over her bike's handlebars in the drainage ditch, to the small mole on her upper lip that she tries to freeze off with ice cubes. I can't imagine living here without her. She's the best friend you could ever have. I give her hand a squeeze. You ready for this? Dust from the cow feed fills the tiny room and steals the air from my lungs. My pulse races as my eyes search the darkness for any sign of light. There's none. How could I have been so stupid? Panic thrums my chest. My hands grope underneath me for solid ground, but fistfuls of ground corn slide through my fingers like sinking sand. Breathe. This isn't the first time. I'm not being buried alive. It just feels like it. I was being so cautious tonight. Crystal and I hurried through our chores in stealth mode, always looking over our shoulder for Veronica. She creeps around like one of the other barn cats, even though she's not supposed to be in the barn because of her allergies. She has terrible hay fever that acts up any time she gets near it, but that doesn't stop her. Chore time is one of the best times to get us because we split up to get things done. Never turn your back to the door. How many times have we told each other that? All I was thinking about was Crystal. I wanted to fill my wheelbarrow with the feed and get back out there as fast as I could to check in with her before I fed the cows. She always comes through the barn on her way to put the pigs down for the night, and I know exactly how much time it takes between barns. 9 seconds. That's all I was thinking as I darted in. Click. Instant darkness surrounded me. I held back the urge to scream. I used to scream. I don't scream anymore. Old barns weren't built with windows, so when you snuff out the light, there's nothing but black space. Tight, compressed air fills my lungs. You could die in here if you were allergic to seed, or never found. I tell myself the same things I tell Crystal to tell herself whenever Veronica locks her up. It's been her favorite thing to do to us since the early days, our foolish little girl days. It was halfway into our first summer on the farm, and she asked if we wanted to play hide and seek. We jumped at the chance, thinking she finally liked us after months of pretending we didn't exist. Crystal and I hid together in the linen closet. We tried to be quiet and not giggle as we waited for her to find us. Seconds drew into minutes. Then the minutes stretched even longer until we started wondering if she was ever going to find us. Both of us were shocked when we tried the door and discovered it was locked. Crystal freaked out first. We all have our phobias. Fear of enclosed spaces is definitely hers. It wasn't mine before. It is now. I inch on all fours, doing my best to steel myself against the terror surging through me. All my self-talk does nothing to calm the fear that she might have killed Crystal or have her tied up somewhere, given her something to knock her unconscious, anything to keep her from getting to me. And if she can't get to me, then there's nobody to come looking for me. Eventually, I'll run out of air in this feed room before anyone finds me. Something brushes up against my leg as my fingers touch the spikes from the pitchfork. The one we stack against the door for a marker like we have in all the rooms, and just for this reason. I work my way to the handle, then follow it up to the top as I stand. I feel my way along the wall a few inches to the door. I reach down with my other hand and tug the handle. Nothing. She's done it again. But I always hope that this time the door will open when I twist the knob. I move to the side of the door and slide down the wall to the seat underneath me. I pull my legs up to my chest and hug them against me, reminding myself to breathe. Crystal will find me. She always does. I just have to wait.
7. Crystal. My cat Hobbs paws my chest, waking me to sheets drenched in cold sweat from my disjointed nightmares. But at least I slept. I took 2 melatonin before I went to bed because I wasn't taking any chances with a repeat performance from the night before. All I did was lie there with my head spinning, and I wasn't going through that again. Normally, I'd spend a few minutes cuddling with him, but I don't have any time this morning. There's only a short window of free access to information before everything gets tied up with the lawyers, and I don't want to waste a single minute until then. Sorry, buddy, I say, pushing Hobbs aside and throwing the covers off me. He lets out a loud meowing protest, But his upset will be gone as soon as we get downstairs and he sees me heading to the pantry for his food. I grab my bathrobe from the gray armchair and tuck it around me to keep warm before plodding down the hallway. The smell of coffee greets me on the stairs as I make my way down and into the kitchen. I grab my phone from the charger plugged in next to the coffee maker on the counter. Years ago, I stopped keeping my phone in the bedroom with me after a New York Times article described how the alpha waves disrupted your sleep, and that your brain still listened for the sounds of your phone even while you slept. I quickly tap out a text to Mark, asking how things are going with the Wilkins case, before opening my unread emails. The first one is from Dr. McGowan, informing me that Nicole was taken out of the seclusion room last night around midnight and transferred to a patient room. "She's out, Hubs!" I squeal, jumping up and down in the kitchen. Dr. McGowan doesn't give any more details, and I email him back, letting him know I'm on my way up to the hospital. I don't care if it isn't visiting hours. Somebody's working there, and they're going to let me see Nicole. I answer client emails in between showering and getting myself ready for the day, draining another 2 cups of coffee in the process. Teresa's doing an amazing job keeping everything together, and gratitude for her washes over me. I'm so fortunate to have her as my assistant. There's nothing I can do that she can't, and she knows more about law than most lawyers I meet. The sun is starting to rise as I leave home and rush to my car. I'll probably get there so early the nurses won't have changed shift yet. Maybe they'll let me eat breakfast with her since all their meals are in the community room. I hurry through town, making the green at the only 2 lights in Belmont, and arrive in the empty parking lot of Riverside East before 7. I grab another coffee from the lobby and take it with me to the 4th floor. "Excuse me," I say to the receptionist behind the desk with a tone of authority like I'm supposed to be here at this hour. She's young, somewhere in her early 20s, and looks like she's been up all night. Her ponytail, which was probably tightly pulled back at the beginning of her shift, is haphazardly piled on top of her head, and loose strands fall around her round face. She holds back a yawn as she greets me with a hello. "I'm Nicole Fisher's lawyer, and I'm here to see her." She narrows her eyes. I don't give her a chance to interrupt. "I spoke with Dr. McGowan this morning, and he should be up to join me shortly." Not entirely a lie. Nowadays, emailing qualifies as speaking, and even though he never said he was on his way up, I'm certain he's not going to be able to stay away either. The nurse quickly looks me up and down. "Nicole is in room 41. However, patients aren't allowed to meet with anyone in their rooms while they're on 1-to-1 supervision, and she is currently on 1-to-1. I will notify one of our staff members to wake her and bring her into the community room. No, I jump in. Don't wake her up. I mean, get her if she's awake, but if she's sleeping, just let her sleep until Dr. McGowan gets here." She gives me a confused look like she might be reconsidering giving me permission to see Nicole, but her lack of energy works in my favor. She points to the hallway leading to the community room. "You can have a seat in the first room on your left. I'll have one of the staff check in on her and get back to you." "Thank you," I say, giving her a grateful smile. The place is eerily still as I walk down the hallway. My footsteps on the linoleum echo behind me. Everything in the community room is violence and suicide-proof. The windows are unbreakable plexiglass sealed at the edges and locked to keep the patients safe. The walls are bare except for a clock that mercilessly clicks away each minute. The patients eat all their meals here, so the smell of hospital food has seeped into the walls. It mingles with the smell of body odor. There's only one other person in the room with me, a man who nervously paces in front of the row of windows, smacking his cheeks every few seconds and muttering to himself. I find a table on the other side of the room, as far away from him as possible. His agitation is infectious, and I turn the other direction so I can't see him. The minutes stretch out endlessly until I finally hear motion outside. Nicole shuffles into the community room like an elderly person. Her head hangs so low her chin is almost touching her chest. A paper-thin white gown droops on her small frame. Her legs jut out stiffly like she's forgotten how to walk overnight, and the staff member next to her puts his arm around her and guides her over to me. He's got at least 40 years on her and could easily be her grandfather, but she's the one struggling to make it across the room. He places her delicately into the chair, and her body slumps so far to the right side that he has to quickly grab her and pull her back up before she slides off the seat. He tries to press her down on the chair upright, but it's obvious she'll tip over again if he lets her go. He eyes the room, but there's nobody here except me and the other patient, who's clearly no help. So he decides to keep his hands on her shoulders and stand behind her chair.
"I'm sorry," he says. "I never know what to do when this happens, and I hate that it happens as often as it does."
His voice is thick, and he draws out his A's like he might be from the Deep South. He leans forward conspiratorially.
"I can't stand when they get them so doped up that they act like this."
He has kind eyes and a soft voice. The smell of stale coffee is on his breath. I move over to their side and kneel down beside Nicole, holding her forearm so she's steady in the chair and can't fall if he lets go. "I've got her. We're good," I say, but he doesn't release his grip or step away from the table.
"That's okay,"
he says as his face breaks into a gentle smile. His bright eyes are framed by thick white eyebrows, and he looks like the kind of man who sits on his porch watching out for his neighbors.
"I don't mind helping you girls, and she's my one-to-one, so I can't be further than 2 feet from her at any given time."
"Really?" He nods.
"That's how it'll be until she's off restriction. I'm Earl, by the way."
"Hi, Earl," I say, forcing a smile for his benefit because nothing about Nicole's present state makes me happy. She sits unflinching in her chair with no recognition that I'm crouched next to her. "I'm Nicole's sister, Crystal."
"Poor thing. I just hate seeing them this way."
Tears mist my eyes. "Nicole?" I say tentatively and as softly as I can, hoping the sound of my voice calling her name will bring her back from wherever she's disappeared to. But she still says nothing, doesn't move. Her hands are bent at her wrists in 45-degree angles on her lap. Red chapped rings circle her mouth from constantly licking her lips. She lets out a weird smacking sound every few seconds when she does it. "Nicole?" I try again. She stares straight ahead, rarely blinking, face flat. "Sweetie?" My voice warbles with emotion.
"My daughter used to get like this whenever she was first brought to the hospital."
Earl's voice breaks in instead of Nicole's.
"She'd go through real bad spells, real bad ones. Her brain would start telling her all these things that weren't true, so she didn't always act right, and she ended up in places like this many times. This is a good place, though. Some of the best doctors work at this hospital. Bet you didn't know they bring people from up north and all over the country to get treated here. Did ya?"
He gives me a wide grin, and I can't help but smile back. Some of the tension in my back releases.
"Sometimes we even get people from New York."
He says it as if New York is an exotic place.
"Your sister's gonna get good care here. Real good care. You just watch. Trust me. They'll figure out what's wrong with her in no time."
I'm afraid I'll start crying if I speak, so I nod my gratitude and allow myself to feed off his hope and encouragement. He smiles back as though he senses my appreciation. I tuck Nicole's red hair behind her ears with my free hand, then softly rub the back of her head like I do Hobbs's. I take deep breaths in and out, trying to gather myself and think clearly. I'm no good to Nicole if I turn into a puddle of tears on the floor. I'm not quite centered when the sound of footsteps approaches from behind. I turn around. Monk-strap dress shoes lead up to Dr. McGowan's face, and I've never been so relieved to see him. He takes one look at Nicole and shifts into a doctor mode I've never witnessed. Earl gladly steps back as Dr. McGowan swoops in. He crouches beside her and turns her chair so they're facing each other.
"Nicole." You've met me before, but in case you don't remember, I'm Dr. McGowan. I'm a doctor at Riverside East, and I'm here to help you.
He speaks slowly, enunciating his words. He pulls a pencil light out of his shirt pocket and shines it in each of her eyes. He does it 2 more times, like he's not satisfied with the response he's getting from her pupils. He tucks the implement back into his shirt and lifts up his pointer finger in front of her face.
I want you to keep your eye on my finger, okay? Don't look away while I move it. Just follow it as best you can.
He moves his finger from one side to the next. Nicole remains faced forward, oblivious to the movement in front of her. I watch as a droplet of drool forms at the corner of her mouth, horrified that she seems unaware of it. I pull my sleeve down and use the back of my hand to wipe it off.
Can you tell me what year it is? He asks.
A long, drawn-out pause follows.
How about the month? Are you able to tell me the month?
I fight the urge to grab her shoulders and shake her, wake her up from this drug-induced stupor. I can't stand looking at her this way. I want to shove her into the bathtub and spray her down with the shower like she used to do to me in college when I stumbled in late and needed to sober up by 8 a.m. for my biochemistry class. This isn't right. The breakfast cart arrives after his next question, which she meets with silence. We might as well not be in the same room. Other patients begin trickling in. Our conversations are no longer private.
I think we should get right to it this morning,
Dr. McGowan says, finishing his exam and rising to his feet. There's no change in Nicole's expression. He picks up his iPad and types for a few beats.
She's the first person on the list for CT this morning, so the technicians should be here immediately following breakfast to bring her down. She'll meet with Dr. Bernstein afterward. She's the neurologist Nicole met with yesterday, and should be the one officially assigned to her case after our team meeting at 11.
Okay, I say as I stand to meet him, keeping one of my hands on Nicole's shoulder in case she topples over. I point to her with my other hand. But first and foremost, even before breakfast, what are you going to do about this?
I can understand why her condition might be upsetting.
Upsetting? My voice shakes. She's on so many drugs right now, she's probably peeing on herself. She can barely walk. This time I point to Earl, who stood as still as a statue 2 feet away from us throughout the entire conversation. He had to help her in here. This isn't right. You can't keep her... Dr. McGowan interrupts.
Can we step outside? I don't want to have this conversation around the other patients.
I glance down at Nicole. I don't want to leave her even if she has no idea I'm here. I bend down and whisper in her ear. I'm going to go talk with Dr. McGowan outside in the hallway, but I'm not leaving. I'm coming back. Promise. There's no change in her expression. I can't kiss her on her mangled cheeks, so I press my lips to the top of her head instead. I love you, I whisper, before standing back up and following Dr. McGowan out of the community room. He walks a few paces down the hallway and stops in front of the patients' phones. They aren't allowed to have their own phones on the unit, and there are 2 old-fashioned rotary phones provided for them. The young people who get institutionalized probably have to be taught how to use them. You have to do something about that, I say bluntly now that I don't have to hold back. That's ridiculous. I've never seen someone so high in my life. If that's what it takes to get her out of the seclusion room, then put her back in there. He nods his head in quick succession.
I understand your concern. I'm going to decrease her Haldol and see how she does if we replace her clozapine with an SSRI instead to treat the anxiety.
Okay, good. Because I don't ever want to see her like that again. It was awful. Thinking about it makes me feel sick to my stomach.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
He pauses the conversation while a nurse walks by carrying a cart loaded up with vials of blood.
There's something I left out of my email because I wanted to tell you in person.
He clears his throat as I stretch forward, hanging on his every word.
Aiden took a turn for the worse last night, and his condition still hasn't stabilized.
Seriously? What happened? I checked on how he was doing before I went to bed last night, and all the reports were positive. There were plenty of local news and social media reports, since Aiden's family is so well known in the community. They aren't a family anyone outside of Texas would recognize, but they are big fish in our sea.
He's developed an infection in his lungs due to the fluid buildup. It's causing all kinds of problems with his blood pressure, and his other major organ systems are beginning to shut down,
he announces in the same monotone.
That's awful. You know what's going to happen then, right?
He asks. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to get really bad. I have no idea what happens to people when their organs shut down. Obviously, they die eventually, but Aiden can't die. He just can't.
They're going to charge Nicole.
No way. How could anyone think of charging her with anything, given the condition she's in? Nobody's charging her with anything. He cocks his head to the side.
That's not why they haven't charged her yet.
He gives me a strange look like I'm dumb.
They're waiting to see if Aiden lives, so they know whether to charge her with murder or attempted murder.
8. Crystal. Coming! I yelled to the sound of the phone ringing on the other side of my office door as I struggled to turn the key in the lock, silently cursing myself for not getting it fixed. Normally, I wouldn't care so much about missing a phone call or letting it go straight to voicemail, but there are too many important people trying to get a hold of me. I drop my bag on the chair and grab the phone on the reception desk before it cuts off. Hello? I answer breathlessly.
May I speak with Crystal Benson?
This is she, I say, hoping it's William Jenkins. If what Dr. McGowan said is true, then I need his help more than ever.
Oh, hi. Good morning, Crystal. This is Detective Sparks.
I curse silently under my breath, regretting that I picked it up and wishing I'd let it go to voicemail. I quickly step through the reception area and into my office. What can I do for you this morning, Detective? I ask, shutting the door behind me. My office sits untouched from how I left it 2 days ago. It's only been a short time, but it feels like an entire lifetime has passed.
I'd like to follow up on our conversation from yesterday, if we might,
he says, as if I have a say in the matter. I wait for him to continue, but he doesn't. His silence won't be nearly as effective on the phone. I turn on my computer and wait for all my files to load on the desktop.
How's Nicole?
He asks. She's progressing, I say, knowing a medical status update isn't his motivation for calling.
That's great. Glad to hear she's getting better. I plan on stopping by the hospital later on today myself.
His answer isn't any more about her health than mine. My breath catches in my chest. Can he do that? Is he allowed to talk to Nicole without a lawyer present if she's not even capable of asking for a lawyer? If I don't get in touch with a good attorney soon, I'm going to get stuck with a slimy used car salesman lawyer because I need one now. I can't manage these issues on my own. I should be there most of the afternoon, I say, so he knows she won't be up there alone. Maybe knowing that I'm going to be around will keep him away. Looks like we'll probably get to see each other in person today, too.
How nice. 2 days in a row,
he says with a hint of amusement in his voice, and I can't tell if he's flirting with me or just being sarcastic. He doesn't wait for a response from me before continuing.
I spent some time yesterday out at Crestview interviewing her colleagues and students. Your sister was very well loved by both.
Outside of Aiden, Nicole's life centers around her students at Crestview High School. She loves teaching her history classes, but she's the most passionate about coaching track. She says it's about running, but it's because she gets them for 4 years, 9th grade to graduation. Nicole suffers from primary ovarian insufficiency, so she can't have any children of her own. She's always loved her students, but after the life-changing diagnosis, they became her babies, and she channeled all her mothering instincts into them. She nurtures her team members all the way through high school and goes through empty nest syndrome every summer. How are her kids holding up? I ask. She talks about them like they're her own, and I grow attached to them over the years, too, because most of her stories revolve around what's happening in their lives.
They organized a GoFundMe campaign for her and created a Facebook page that's filled with supportive messages.
I can hear the smile in his voice, and I can't help but smile, too. They love her as much as she loves them.
But everyone I've talked to says you're the one who knows her best. Sounds like you're not just her sister, but the closest person to her, too. Would you agree?
We're pretty close. I don't tell him we're close enough for me to read her thoughts sometimes and know what she's going to do before she does it. I've never understood people who aren't friends with their siblings as adults. How do you survive childhood together and not grow an intimacy unlike any other? But then I remember, not everyone's like us. Lots of siblings hate each other for the same reasons we love each other.
Most of them haven't seen her since school ended for the summer, so they couldn't say much about what the past month has been like for her. They said it was usual for them to maintain their distance over summer. Have you noticed a similar pattern?
Nicole spends her summers hanging out with Aiden as much as she can. They take all of their vacation time during the summer because they're both so busy during the year. Aiden travels a lot for business, and Nicole takes on her students' problems like they're her own, so when Aiden and her are together, it's intense and all-consuming. I guess that's what happens when you give yourself a chance to miss your partner. I say like I have experience knowing what's good or bad in a relationship. Hobbs is my longest relationship besides Nicole.
Do you see her during the summer?
Absolutely. Sometimes I even travel with them on weekend trips. We were supposed to go to Galveston next week after my trial ended. Aiden's family has always thought it's weird that I travel with them and that we spend so much time together as a threesome, but I've never felt like a third wheel. Aiden's the one always complaining about being left out and how easily we slip into our own private song and dance without making room for anyone else at the party.
Did you notice anything off with her behavior?
No.
Any problems in their relationship?
They were happily married. His disbelief comes through the phone without him saying a word. Believe me, nobody happily married sets their house on fire with their spouse inside. I get that. I'm aware of how bad this looks for her. He lets out a compassionate sigh.
Sometimes it's the people closest to us that have the hardest time accepting that someone we love could do something so terrible. I see it happen all the time, especially with parents. But those two things can coexist. We can still love someone even if they've been bad.
His voice is syrupy thick with pity. That's fine with me. He can pity my perceived denial all he wants. While he's busy examining Nicole's life under a microscope, I'm going to find out what really happened that night.
9. Nicole. Then. Crystal's hair falls out in clumps in my hand as I work my way through it. It's not that bad. Really, it isn't. I'm trying to sound convincing, but she can't stop crying. Stupid Veronica. Her appetite for revenge wasn't satisfied by punishing me. Oh no, that wasn't enough. She had to make Crystal suffer too. She gets like that sometimes. It had taken Crystal almost an hour before she got to the feed room and let me out. She apologized over and over again for how long it took her to get to me. Like it's her fault Veronica is such a crazy psycho. I hate when she does that. I'm so sorry, she said, for like the 1,000th time. One of the cows got stuck in an old barbed wire fence down by the creek. His left hind leg was all tangled, and Mrs. Wheeler asked me to run the clippers to Judd. Worst timing ever. I'd stumbled out of the room without saying a word, gasping for air and racing to the bathroom. Once, I peed my pants when Veronica locked me in an antique chest for 3 hours. She kept me in there for so long that I didn't have any other choice. There was no way to do it without peeing all over myself. Definitely one of her top 3 most humiliating ones. Now, every time my brain goes into terror mode about being locked up, it also goes into have to pee so bad I'm about ready to die mode, too. Veronica had won the lottery with the cow getting tangled, and she'd leapt at the opportunity to corner me alone. At least, that's what we'd thought. But apparently she wasn't smirking with pride and satisfaction outside the heavy door while I tried not to have a heart attack in the darkness. She went into the house and filled our shampoo bottle with Nair or some other kind of formula that makes your hair fall out on the spot. Crystal jumped in the shower after we got back inside. Her screams sent me flying from our bedroom and racing to the bathroom door. I pounded on the door. "What's going on? Are you okay?" "My hair is falling out! My hair is falling out!" she shrieked from inside. "Open up so I can help you." I glanced over my shoulder to see if Veronica was standing at the end of the hallway, watching us from the family member side of the house. Mrs. Wheeler's home is a ranch-style house. The kitchen and living spaces are in the center of the house, with a wing off each side. Foster kids on the right, family on the left. Veronica stood at the intersection in the middle. Her lip was turned up slightly, the closest she gets to smiling. Of course she wouldn't miss this moment. I flashed her a dirty look while I banged on the door with my fist. Crystal flung it open and held her towel out for me to see. Her chestnut brown hair lay in clumps and swirls in the middle of it. "Look, I took my towel off and half my hair fell out. See?" She shook the towel in front of me like I wasn't getting the depravity of the situation. Crystal loves her hair as much as I hate mine. She's been growing it out since we were in 7th grade and takes meticulous care of it, brushing 100 full strokes every morning and 100 more before bed each night. Besides running, it's the thing other people comment the most about, since it's so shiny and goes halfway down her back. Everyone wants to know the secret to her great hair, but she refuses to tell anyone but me. She uses the same conditioner that we use on the cows when they get yeast infections. Mrs. Wheeler refuses to buy conditioner for us. She says it's a luxury we don't need, so Crystal is always trying to find ways to use products we have lying around the house. Once, she tried regular hand lotion on her hair. I tried the cow conditioner too, because it worked so well for her, but it made my hair frizzier. I moved inside the small bathroom and quickly shut the door behind us. I slid the brick in front of it. Another one of our tricks, since we're not allowed to have a lock on the door. At least it slows things down and gives us a warning. So far, Veronica's left us alone. I grabbed the towel from her and examined the piles of hair like I don't already know who did this. "It's okay. It's not half your hair. You probably won't even notice." But it's pretty bad. "How didn't we think of this?" Crystal cries. We spend hours brainstorming all the possible ways Veronica might attack us and then figure out what we can do to protect ourselves from them. There's a small pink notebook stuffed underneath my mattress because sometimes ideas come to me in the middle of the night and I'm too afraid to wait until morning to add them to our master list in case I forget. We keep the master list in the hayloft in the barn, the same place we keep everything that we want safe, because Veronica hates going up there. It was our favorite spot to play when we were kids. It was perfect because it was the one place that guaranteed we'd always be alone. We spent hours creating elaborate towns out of the hay bales. We built skyscrapers to the roof, pretending we lived in the cities we dreamed of visiting someday. A couple nights, we even slept up there with the hatch open, so we could see the stars. We trained ourselves to overcome the stifling heat in the summer without any ventilation, and turned the mice into our friends during the long winter months, because we were determined to have a space that was ours. I don't know, but she's never going to get us with it again, Every time we get in the shower, we have to check the shampoo and the conditioner to see if she's put something in it, I say. How are we supposed to do that? She asks, doing her best not to cry, in case Veronica has tiptoed down the hallway and is listening outside the door. We don't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing how badly she hurts us. Crying's the only thing we have control over. Easy. A sniff test. Whatever that stuff is, it has to smell super bad because it's got to be strong enough to make your hair fall out. I remind myself to add this one to the master list as I work the comb through her hair as delicately as I can, doing my best not to pull out any new hairs. The stuff Veronica used was potent. A small, bald patch is growing on the back of Crystal's head. I don't want to break the news to her, but I have to. So, there is a spot back here where it's just a teensy bit bald. Not bad at all, and you can barely see it. I wouldn't have even noticed if I wasn't back here working on it, so... What? She shoves me off her and grabs the handheld mirror on the counter next to the sink. She hops up on the counter with her back to the mirror on the wall, holding the smaller mirror in front of her face as she tries to angle it just right to see the spot. I can't see it. It's because it's so small. See? I'm telling you, it's nothing. She's still moving the mirror around like she doesn't believe me. I grab her arms and pull her down. Come on, sit. Let me finish going through your hair. She puts the lid down on the toilet and takes a seat on it. She's got her sad puppy face on. That one crushes me. What are we going to do, Nicole? I run the comb softly through her hair. We're going to keep going, like we always do. One day at a time. We're almost there. Only a year left, and we're getting out of here. Crystal pulls the baseball cap down to her ears and glares across the dinner table at Veronica. She stabs at the peas on her plate like she wishes she was squashing Veronica's head. It took me over an hour to calm her down this afternoon, and the sight of Veronica has sent her through the roof again. I don't blame her. I mean, she has a bald spot on her head. Thankfully, Crystal's got a lot of hair, so she can brush over it and hide it pretty easily. But it's there. You can see it if you look closely, especially in a certain light, but I didn't tell Crystal that. At least it's on the back of her head where she doesn't have to see it every day and be reminded of it. Veronica returns her glare with an equally hostile stare. Her brown, beady eyes fixed on Crystal. She looks like a rat. Pointed nose, squinty eyes too close together, mousy hair. She takes measured and calculated bites back at Crystal. You girls are awfully quiet tonight, Mrs. Wheeler says from her spot at the head of the table. Mr. Wheeler used to sit there, but she took over his spot once he got sick. I never got to meet him. He was gone before I got here. Mrs. Wheeler and Veronica never speak about him, so sometimes I wonder if they made him up altogether. There's not even a picture of him in the house. Well, not in our part of the house, anyway. Maybe Mrs. Wheeler's bedroom is filled with framed photos of his face. It's hard to imagine Mrs. Wheeler being married. She doesn't wear any makeup, not even lip gloss, and I don't think she owns anything pretty. She wears blue jeans and a flannel shirt every day. It doesn't matter if it's 90 degrees in August, she's still out there in the fields with her sleeves rolled up. Besides her jeans and flannel uniform, she only ever wears long nightgowns like they did in the Little House on the Prairie days. I don't get to see her in them very often. Only those rare times when I'm sick or a kid gets brought to the farm in the middle of the night, since waking Mrs. Wheeler is reserved for emergency situations. I did it once when Crystal's ear was hurting so bad, she said it felt like knives were stabbing inside her head. We've never been in Mrs. Wheeler's bedroom, though. She keeps it locked no matter what, and only opens it a crack to speak to you until she's ready to come out. Crystal's convinced her bedroom is covered in pink and full of flowers. She swears that underneath her weather-beaten skin and dirt-crusted fingernails, she's secretly this girly girl who puts on dresses and dances around in front of a mirror. But that's just because Crystal is too much of a romantic at heart and automatically thinks the best of people. I couldn't disagree more about Mrs. Wheeler's room. She's probably got dead carcasses hanging on her walls, just like the beheaded deer above the fireplace in the living room. It's my least favorite room in the house because these huge, sad eyes stare down at me, and all I can wonder is, what was he thinking in the moment before they shot him? Did he know he was going to die? The head is so realistic. It looks like any minute he's going to find the other half of his body hidden somewhere, attach it to his head, and go walking around the living room. That's what I think her bedroom is full of. She spawned Veronica, so how could she not have an evil side? We've thought about sneaking in there, but we're never alone at the house. Never once. It's strange to have never been alone in your own house, but then I guess this really isn't our own house. It's theirs. Sorry, Mama, Veronica pipes up in that syrupy, thick voice that she only uses when she's talking to Mrs. Wheeler. I've just been so preoccupied thinking about school today that I haven't been paying attention to dinner. Oh, really? Did something fun happen? Mrs. Wheeler comes alive in her chair. She's fascinated with anything Veronica says or any time she gives her attention. She always has been. She oozes with desperation for Veronica's love and approval. It's the strangest thing to watch, because Mrs. Wheeler is a stone wall of emotional expression, unless it has something to do with Veronica. Then it's like she got plugged into an outlet, and her whole body fills up with light. Veronica doesn't return her feelings. Not in any real way. I'm not sure she can feel things. Mrs. Wheeler is desperate for her own kid to like her, but I'm not sure Veronica likes anyone. Veronica nods, enjoying that Mrs. Wheeler is hanging on her every word. She loves her power. That's what feeds her. I see it in her eyes and the way she glances our way before continuing the escapade she's about to walk Mrs. Wheeler through. We've seen this scene before. Me and Morgan were up to give our presentation on Mount Vesuvius that we've been working on all semester. Remember I told you how Sarah and Jessica were dying to be my partners, but I could only choose one? Crystal kicks my shin underneath the table, like I need any reminder that our partners for our history projects were assigned by Mrs. Abbott, and Morgan let out a groan when she found out she was being paired with Veronica. People stopped wanting to work with Veronica somewhere around 5th grade, when they started realizing it put a target on their backs. Crystal's rage radiates from her body and across the table at Veronica as she weaves the details of her made-up story for her captive audience. I'm just mad that I'm not going to get to see Travis tonight. There's no way I'm going anywhere since Veronica made sure my other chores weren't done on time by locking me in the barn. That's an automatic loss of privileges. Travis and I finally worked up to second base, and I'm dying to get him to third, but he's so shy. He still gets embarrassed that he gets hard whenever we kiss, and apologizes like it's something to be sorry for. Not even. I love the power and thrill of exciting him. It means I've done something right. He's a terrible kisser, all gums and teeth, but I want to know how things work, so I don't mind. I could sneak out, but Crystal would kill me if I did. She's going to want to have another emancipation talk tonight. We turn 17 next month, and that's when kids can file the papers on their own. She's been talking about the Emancipation of Minors Act since she found it 2 years ago at the library. Mrs. Wheeler allows library visits during the summer as an approved activity, and she handed it out years ago, thinking it'd be a punishment, but it was our salvation. We learned things no one was ever going to teach us. While I buried myself in made-up stories, Crystal combed the nonfiction shelves and became obsessed with all the books in the legal section. She says it makes her feel like there's an order and structure to the universe, that there are rules to ground us. That's how she stumbled on the act that would set us free, not just from Mrs. Wheeler, but all county control. No more social workers, no more judges, no more staying in homes where we're not wanted. Crystal is so smart, and she's done all the research. All it takes is filling out a bunch of paperwork that we get from the courthouse downtown. She has a list of everything we need already put together. All she's waiting on is the green light from me. At my go-ahead, she'd be down there on our birthdays and have the paperwork signed and submitted by the end of the week. But I'm just not so sure. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes living here makes me feel like I'm going to split into 1,000 pieces. I love the idea of being out on our own. Finally, just me and her. No rules, nobody else's regulations. And we get to live in a house where we get to go on both sides. But most importantly, no more Veronica or Mrs. Wheeler. They're out of our lives forever, and every evil thing they've put in it can go too. Except, as bad as they are, we're almost through our junior year, and then we only have one more year left until we're free. If we get emancipated, we are totally on our own, which means we both would have to quit school and work full-time to support ourselves. We'll get our GED while we work. Crystal's convinced we can earn our way up in the world, and I'm sure we can. But what about all the hard work we've already done? We've always gotten good grades. We work really hard, and we help each other with the difficult subjects. We've been on the honor roll since 9th grade. All we've ever done is build our high school transcripts in hopes of getting scholarship money for colleges. That started in 8th grade. What if we could go to college? If we make it to state in track this year, there's a good chance we can both get athletic scholarships. Our 4x4 team has gone to state every year since Crystal and I joined the team in 10th grade. We were the only 2 10th graders to make the varsity team. The scouts started looking at us last year. Do we really want to give up our chance at college? Because that's what we're doing if we get emancipated. We're starting all over and basically saying we're not going to college. I'm not sure I'm okay with that. What did you think, Nicole? Mrs. Wheeler's voice interrupts my thoughts. I have no idea what they've been talking about, but she only ever wants to hear one thing: how amazing her daughter is. School was great, I say, plastering a fake smile on my face. It's the same one I practice in front of the mirror in the morning as I'm getting ready for my day. Veronica is an amazing student. You should be really proud of her.
10. Crystal. I creep around the side of Nicole and Aiden's house, doing my best to look normal and go unnoticed, but I still feel like a criminal even though I'm not doing anything wrong. I would have gone through the front door, but it's blocked with yellow crime scene tape, and I didn't want to disturb it. All the forensic evidence has been gathered, so it's not an active crime scene anymore, but the fire marshal still hasn't cleared it for occupancy. Technically, you're not supposed to be allowed inside without an escort, but I don't plan on taking anything or doing anything dangerous. I just want to go through their security camera footage and look around the house for myself. It's not like I don't trust the police to do their jobs, but they don't know Nicole and Aiden like I do. I slip in through the sliding glass doors on the back patio and quickly tap the code into the wall unit to deactivate the alarms. The overpowering smell of smoke immediately assaults me and burns my nostrils. They're probably going to have to get all new furniture because I don't know how they'll ever get this smell out. Their house is an open concept with one room easily flowing into the next, so I can see almost everything on the main floor. My eyes quickly scan the rooms. Kitchen to dining room to living room, then back to kitchen. Nicole is a meticulous housekeeper, so everything is neat, tidy, and in its place just like always, except there's a thick layer of black soot covering everything, making it look dirty. I slowly make my way through the house. It's over 3,000 square feet, but Nicole made it homely and inviting despite its size. The entire place is airy and bright with a mosaic of bold colors sprinkled throughout. But all of that has been dampened now, like a cloud of darkness has taken over the place. The police and detectives left footprints on the hardwood floors, and I follow them throughout the house as they weave in and out of the rooms. I do my best to keep in step with them so nobody knows I was here. I don't even know what I'm searching for, but there has to be something, some kind of clue. The majority of the activity leads in and out of the office, which is where I find myself after my search of the kitchen and living room turns up nothing. The office is large with bay windows overlooking the garden. Their home library is encased in built-in bookshelves on each wall. Most of the books are Nicole's since Aiden doesn't like to read, and I can't help but smile when I spot her Ramona Quimby books that she's had since we were 10. She discovered the entire collection at a garage sale, and you would have thought she'd found a winning lottery ticket. I haven't seen their laptops anywhere. The police might have taken them, or they could be upstairs, but I still haven't decided if I'm going up there. I'm not sure if I trust the stairs to hold me since they get more and more charred as you move up. The last thing I want to do is fall through and draw attention to my snooping around. Aiden and Nicole share a PC, and thankfully, the police left it sitting on the huge mahogany desk in the center of the room. I was hoping they wouldn't take the computer, and I cross my fingers that they've kept the password the same as I jiggle the mouse to bring it to life. I type in Nicole's birthday and watch as the home screen lights up. I'm always on her to change her passwords to something more difficult, but I'm so glad that she didn't listen to my advice. I go straight to the home security system. I'm not tech savvy. Neither is Nicole, so Aiden made accessing the security cameras easy. I click on the folder and open them up. Thankfully, I've been in the system more than once. A few years ago, I stayed with her for a week while Aiden was away working on business, and raccoons kept getting into their trash at night, scaring us half to death. We thought someone was in the backyard because they were so loud, and I learned my way around the system then. I immediately go to video of the day of the fire. My eyes are glued to the screen as I watch it unfold in front of me like I'm watching a horror movie. I move the time back to the morning. Aiden leaves out the front door at 7. There are 6 cameras mounted around the house, and I rotate perspectives throughout the day. Nicole doesn't leave, and there's no other activity. There's nothing until Aiden comes home again at 6. Even though I'm expecting it, the smoke that starts billowing in thick clouds from the upstairs windows at 11 still floods my body with fear. It isn't long before Nicole opens the front door and steps out. She walks into the yard and turns around. It's not lost on me, as I'm sure it wasn't lost on the investigators who watched the same clips, that she's not running or moving fast. There's nothing about her that's panicked. You can't see her face, but you don't need to in order to see that she's enjoying watching her house burn. She dances lightly on the balls of her feet, moving side to side like she's listening to music. It isn't long before she actually starts dancing around the yard, leaping, running, and twirling. I watch the entire scene play out in blurry images as the police arrive. It's just like they explained. She attacks them when they come near her and goes after the gurney carrying Aiden when they bring him out. "What the hell were you doing?" I ask out loud to her image on the screen as though she can hear me and answer. I'm more confused than ever. I don't bother watching the firefighters put out the fire. Instead, I rewind to the day before, hoping there's something in the days leading up to it that will give me a clue. But Nicole doesn't leave the house that day either. Or the day before that. My heart starts racing as I go as far back as the system allows. The cache stops at 10 days. Nicole doesn't go in or out of the house for an entire week leading up to the night of the fire. The last image of her going into the house shows her walking up to the front door with a bag of groceries in her hand. She furtively looks over her shoulder before heading inside. Then she never takes another step outside for 7 days. 7 whole days. She doesn't even go in the backyard, and that's her favorite spot because she spends hours reading books by the pool. How is that possible? Nicole has walked 3 miles every morning for the last 10 years. She even does it on vacation and when she's sick. And her backyard is her personal sanctuary. And then it hits me like a sucker punch to the gut. What if Aiden or someone else was keeping her trapped inside? What if the fire was the only way for her to get out? The sound of footsteps coming down the hospital corridor behind me pulls my attention to the doorway. Nicole's being led in by a petite Latina woman. I can barely contain my excitement. I've been waiting for her for over an hour, trying to still my racing heart. I came directly to the hospital after I left her house. My clothes smell like smoke, but I don't care. I have to find a way to get through to her. I watched the footage 3 more times to be sure I didn't miss anything, but it was the same every time. Aiden was the only person who moved freely in and out of the house in the week leading up to the accident. And all I can think about is how she told the police that Aiden deserved to die because he was a murderer. Was he keeping her a prisoner? Nicole's eyes dart around the room until they land on mine. The recognition is immediate, and tears flood her cheeks as she tries to hurry toward me. She's still unsteady on her feet, and my knee-jerk response is to rush to her with a huge hug, but that would cause too big of a commotion and break the rules. All visitors are given a list of unit rules after signing the liability waiver, and the first one is to do your best to stay in your seat and not incite extreme emotions. I wait to stand until she's closer. "Crystal!" she cries and throws herself into my arms. I hold her carefully because she feels even frailer than she looks, and I'm afraid to hug her too hard in case I hurt her. Her attendant sticks out her hand and gives me a huge smile that takes up most of her face. "I'm Mia." Her attire is even more casual than the nurse's. She has dark wavy hair tucked into a baseball cap, and jeans slung low on her hips. I give her hand a quick shake. "Crystal." I pull 2 chairs together so that the edges touch and our seats are almost one. I slide in on the left one and motion for Nicole to sit next to me. She plops onto the chair and sits so close to me that she's almost on my lap. She strokes my arms and rubs my thighs like she's not quite sure I'm real. I keep trying to grasp her hands and hold on to them, but she can't keep them still long enough to hold hands. She motions for me to get closer, and I lean in. "He's turning into different people to play tricks on me," she whispers into my ear. "Who is?" I ask, doing a quick scan of the room to see if there's anything going on around us. It's usually frenzied around this hour because it's right before medication time, and everyone gets anxious when it comes to their drugs. The weird thing about madness is that it follows a schedule too. But besides the increased pacing and meaningless chatter in the room, nothing out of the ordinary is happening. "Shh!" She brings her finger up to her lips. "He's sitting right there. He'll hear you." I moved a table to the far side of the room before she got here so we'd have as much privacy as possible. The nearest person is a morbidly obese woman sitting 3 tables over. Her swollen belly is pushed up against the table, and she wears a huge necklace on her chest that's strung with pictures of babies cut out from magazines. I want to get through this experience without ever knowing her story. He's changing people again. You see that? Huh?" Nicole nudges me harder and harder with each question. Her eyes have a weird sheen to them, and her pupils are huge. "Do you?" "Who? You mean Aiden? Is he here?" She grabs my forearm. Her fingers dig into my skin. She whispers through gritted teeth. "Aiden's gone. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He's gone. They took him." Does she mean the Aiden upstairs, breathing on a ventilator and fighting for his life? Or the Aiden she sees in the room with us that nobody else does? "Where did he go?" The thought leapt in my brain, and I spit it out, wondering if I should be wandering this trail of madness with her. But the truth about what happened is somewhere inside her. "I don't know." Tears swell in her eyes. Her love for Aiden is carved deeply into her beat-up face. "What if we can't find him again? What if he's lost forever?" "It's okay, honey, we'll figure this out, I promise." I caress her back, trying my best to calm her. "I think a demon got him." He jumped inside his body. She looks as terrified as she did when we watched Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time, and Freddy killed Tina.
Isn't it so creepy how he does that?
Her legs jitter underneath the table. She twists her hands on her lap like it's painful to sit still. It is. Really is. I try to keep my expression normal, but I can't believe she's the same person from this morning. How can she have bounced to this extreme in such a short period of time? Is this the mania Dr. McGowan was talking about? Mia stretches across the table, not even pretending that she isn't listening to every word we say and watching the scene play out in front of her. Can she be asked to give a statement about things she overhears between us? What if she can? Nothing between Nicole and me is privileged. That's not good. How did things go today? I ask, trying to steer the conversation to more neutral ground and abandoning the idea of getting through to her today. She's in no condition for sensible conversation.
Remember today in Batman Returns? Nicole asks.
She's frighteningly pale with huge black circles underneath her eyes, and her red hair only makes the effect more dramatic and pronounced. I nod slowly, unsure where she's going with this.
Just like it. Or maybe I could say that about the Red Rain too, don't you think?
I nod even though she's talking nonsense. Agitation surges through her body. Every muscle is tight. I can feel her bones through her gown. Did you eat today? I ask, hoping it's a safe topic. She furrows her brow.
Did you eat?
I ask again to help her stay focused.
Food today. I did.
I latch on to the connection grounded in the present moment. What did you have? I bite my tongue and hold back the urge to rapid-fire questions at her. There are so many things I want to ask, but the questions will have to wait. She furrows her eyebrows even farther together, concentrating on pulling a memory from her bank. Frustration lines wrinkle her forehead as she struggles to come up with anything.
Who cares what it was?
I say. Hold on to her. Don't lose her.
Did you like the food?
A small smile peeks out of the corner of her mouth.
I did.
I don't hide my smile. She's always loved to eat. She taught herself how to cook the summer before our freshman year in college. She refused to live off dorm food after we'd survived on nothing but sandwiches and split-pea soup most of our childhood. I suffered through so many bad meals that summer. Overcooked chicken, tasteless vegetables, and countless failed desserts. But by the end of the summer, she'd grown into an amazing cook and hasn't stopped since. Nothing makes her happier than preparing a good meal. She cooked every night for herself and Aiden, whether they ate together or not. No matter what time he came home, there was always a plate saved for him in the refrigerator. I heard you get dessert for dinner, I joke. She lets out a giggle, and I squeeze her against me, forgetting for just a second that we have an audience.
You're going to get through this. You will, I promise.
A male attendant arrives to take her downstairs for her blood draw. They've sent out so much of her blood that they ran out and need more samples. The timing is perfect, since it gives me a chance to sneak away and get more details from Dr. McGowan about how things went today. I squeeze both her hands in mine. You run off and let them take your blood. I'm going to chat with Dr. McGowan while you're gone. She freezes. Her eyes skirt the room.
He's playing tricks on me, I told you.
Dr. McGowan? Her pupils have shrunk. Terror has returned to her eyes. She wildly shakes her head, bringing her fingers up to her mouth to shush me. Mia shifts her attention back and forth between us as we talk. Can she record any of this? What if she's got her phone in her pocket? The paranoia of this place is contagious. I shove the thoughts down. I bring Nicole against me and speak to her softly, even though there's no way to keep Mia from overhearing. This man is safe, I promise. I would never let you go with anyone who is unsafe. Do you understand me? She nods. Her lower lip quivers and her eyes fill with tears. Little Nicole appears in front of me. and it's everything I can do not to break down in front of her, but I pull myself together. I have to stay strong for us. I place my hands on her cheeks and stare into her eyes. You're safe. I'll be here when you get back, I promise. She looks over her shoulder multiple times as she leaves, clearly not wanting to go, but she does because she trusts me. The weight of responsibility and the magnitude of the task in front of me weigh heavily on my chest, but I give her a smile and mouth. You got this.
This is the end of disc number 2. Please insert disc number 3. This is disc number 3.
I wait a few seconds, giving her plenty of time to get on the elevator before heading to Dr. McGowan's office. His door is shut, and Detective Sparks opens it right as I'm about to knock. We both jump back, then laugh nervously at our responses. He's not as clean-cut today. A thin layer of scruffy facial hair covers his chin.
Excuse me,
he says, recovering quickly. His presence fills the doorway, and unlike him, I can't recover. I don't know what to say. There are no books for situations like these. I open and close my mouth twice.
Coming to see Dr. McGowan?
He asks. I nod. Yes, I just came from seeing Nicole. I want to slap myself for disclosing any more than he asked for. What a rookie mistake.
How's she doing?
Kindness coats his question. Better. Much smarter response from me this time. He doesn't need to know that I mean better than the comatose patient she was this morning.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
His blue eyes are warm and compassionate, but I don't doubt for 1 second that they aren't continually scanning and watching me for any sign that I'm lying or no more than I'm letting on. An eye twitch, the tensing of a jaw, any involuntary movement. We stand facing each other and decide at the same moment to step around each other. We bump our chests as we move aside in the same direction, making the moment incredibly more awkward than it already is. I'm close enough to smell his aftershave. Can he smell the smoke on me? What will he think if he finds out I went to Aiden and Nicole's house? We manage to move around each other in a way that lands me in Dr. McGowan's office this time and him in the hallway.
How are you holding up in all of this?
Detective Sparks asks. It hasn't been easy. No wonder he's a detective. His kind eyes and calming voice make me want to spill all my secrets immediately. That I ate a package of Oreo cookies for dinner 3 nights last week, or that I stuff my recycling in my neighbor's bins whenever I run out of space in mine. Not talking takes conscious effort.
Dr. McGowan just filled me in on everything that's happened. All her tests came back negative again today.
He tilts his head and places his hands casually in his back pockets, like he's in no hurry to go anywhere. Normally, negative test results are an opportunity to celebrate, but my heart sinks. How do we fix her if we don't know what's wrong with her? And she's got to be fixed. I can't help her when she's like this. Nobody can. That's unfortunate. It's been a roller coaster of emotional states today, and that's not who she is. Nothing about her behavior right now is remotely close to anything I've ever seen her demonstrate. Even though I told him she was better, I don't want him to think she's not sick.
Is there any history of mental illness in her family?
I freeze for a second. What's he found out about her family? Has he talked to Marlene? I haven't forgotten about her threatening words. There's nothing in her family besides lots of drinking.
That's interesting. Usually, these types of illnesses run in families.
He rubs his chin like he's deep in thought.
She's way out of the normal age range of when you would see a person have their first psychotic break. So something else must be going on.
He says with the authority of someone who's studied psychology for years, and I can't help but wonder if he has. That makes him more dangerous. There's got to be an answer for it somewhere. Sometimes these things are complicated. I try to mirror his confidence, as if I have any experience in diagnosing psychiatric disorders.
Any chance she's faking it?
Detective Sparks asks. His question throws me off, and I stumble to rearrange my face. Why would she do that? I ask like I don't already know.
She's faking crazy to get away with murder. It's the oldest trick in the book.
No way. Not a chance. I shake my head in obstinate denial. I'm vehemently opposed to the idea. Except there is one thing. I know how well Nicole lies.
11. Nicole. Then. My pulse thrums in my temples as my heartbeat explodes in my ears. Crystal rounds the corner of the black-topped track on her way to finishing the last 100 meters of the relay race. Rebecca Swan from Bradley High is inches in front of her, barely holding on to her lead. Everything is muted like the sound's been turned off on a film as I watch Crystal's muscles strain to catch her. Go! My scream rips through my throat. The air is warped and wobbly around me beneath the bright afternoon sky. Crystal's arms pump, her feet blur beneath her. Every muscle strains forward. I take a quick glance at the stands. The 3 college scouts, Baylor, Iowa State, and Westchester emblems blazing on their chests, stand with their timers clutched in their hands as close to the finish line as you can get. This is it. The moment we've spent months training for. Go, Crystal! Just like that, she gives the kick she's famous for, the one everyone came to see. It got us all the attention in the first place. I'm just here as her teammate and moral support. Second leg in the 4x4 is nothing. She's the real deal. She's the one who packs the stands every Friday afternoon. This is why they put her picture in the local newspaper and plaster her face on the evening news, even though we never get to watch because TV is only allowed on the weekends. Perspiration lines her forehead. Sheer determination marks every step as she shifts into high gear like only she can. Instantly, the crowd is on its feet, lit, screaming, yelling, chanting her name. I jump up and down as Crystal flies past Rebecca and races over the finish line. Screams erupt from everywhere. The rest of the 4x4 team and I rush to her, throwing our arms around her and smacking her back in congratulations. She doubles over with her hands on her knees, trying to catch her breath. Everyone talks on top of each other. The excitement bubbles over as Coach joins in the celebration, lifting Crystal up and twirling her around. The rest of the team and all the fans from the bleachers storm the field. You did it! Our team captain Megan shrieks. We're going to state my senior year! Our 4x4 race gave us the win we needed to qualify the entire team for state. Bradbury High was the school to beat out, and we did it! This was the tie-breaking win! I've never been prouder of Crystal. Megan gives Crystal another hug after Coach sets her down, and Crystal catches my eye as she does. She gives me a huge smile, and I give her an even bigger one back. Megan might be thrilled about going to state because it's her senior year and she's never been, but nobody's more excited than us. Crystal's win assures us a scholarship to at least one of the colleges that's vying for us. Not that anyone really wants me, but Crystal's made it clear she won't go alone. We're a package deal. I breathe a sigh of relief as the adrenaline subsides. Everything is falling into place. I retook my SATs last weekend and I got a 15-12 combined. Even if the athletic scouts don't include me in their scholarship offer to Crystal, my grades put me in the running for an academic scholarship at whatever school she picks, so it'll give them an incentive to take me. She's going to have multiple options, even though she thinks she'll have to grab at whatever offer is thrown her way. She's so hard on herself. I wish she could see herself the way everyone else does. The hair on the back of my neck tickles. Electricity shoots through me. I turn my head in the direction of the feeling. Veronica stands off to the side of the bleachers, holding the team's water bottles, Mrs. Wheeler insisted she join the team last year because it'd be a good social activity for her, and we could help her make friends with the other team members. Mrs. Wheeler constantly forces Veronica into situations where she doesn't fit, which only makes sure she sticks out more. Her lips are pursed in a straight line as she watches the scene unfolding in front of her, and I search her face for clues as to what's going on in her head. Is she planning on spiking our water to get us disqualified? I never have any idea what she's thinking. Her eyes catch mine. She raises her thin upper lip in a smirk, her version of a smile, the closest she ever comes to the real thing. But there's nothing friendly about it. There never is. She's plotting something. She hates anything good that happens to us almost as much as she hates Whitney and the Hit Girls. There's been a bit of a lull in their attacks against her. The spring formal is coming up, and Whitney and her crew have been so obsessed with it that they haven't had any time to torture Veronica. It's been a nice reprieve. I just wish it would last. But the look on her face tells me it's about to begin all over again. I quickly turn away, refusing to allow her to ruin this day, and put my attention back on Crystal. I'm so happy for her. She deserves every ounce of success that she gets. I stand on the small disc platform and hold on to the metal rail of the flatbed trailer, staring at the rows of freshly tilled dirt behind the old John Deere tractor. Crystal's up front in the driver's seat, with the radio blasting and singing along at the top of her lungs to every song that plays. AM radio is the only kind that comes in out in these fields, so it's nothing but oldies. Doesn't bother her, though. She belts them out without a care in the world, even though she's tone-deaf and can't carry a tune to save her life. Her happiness radiates from the cab. She's still high from yesterday's win. Today is a perfect day to follow her success, since rock picking is her favorite chore. Every spring, we till the soil, bringing all the rocks to the surface. The rocks can't stay in the fields because they damage all the other equipment and screw up the crops, so somebody's got to get them out. We've always been the somebodies. She loves the days spent in the black, hot dirt underneath a blue sky in the sweltering heat. I'm not a fan of the black soil that sticks to every part of you, including your eyes, ears, and nose. She can barely wait for spring, now that she gets to drive the tractor while we make our way through the acres of rolling hills surrounding the farm. We waited for years to be able to drive it. One of the hired hands used to drive, and we got a new driver every year, sometimes two, because no one was ever to Mrs. Wheeler's liking. Her standards are nearly impossible. We've had 2 Joes and 3 Bills. Then, we turned 13. And we haven't needed anyone since. We're the only hired hand she needs now. She never minds that we're girls driving the tractor, even though people in town look down their noses at her for it. Around here, heavy farm labor is reserved for the boys. But that doesn't bother Mrs. Wheeler. How could it, considering she's been running the farm by herself since Mr. Wheeler died? Tongue-wagging never bothers her, though. Lots of people say they don't care what other people think about them, but she really doesn't. I spot a rock and jump off my stand to grab it. This one takes both hands, and I have to do a full squat to come up with it. Crystal catches my movement in the rearview mirror and shifts down to first gear. I lug it back to the trailer and toss it on the bed along with the others I've gathered. I give her the thumbs-up sign and the tractor lurches forward into motion. I can't see her face, but I'm sure there's a huge smile on it, because she hasn't stopped grinning since we left school yesterday. All 3 scouts circled around her when she came out of the locker room after the win. I stood off to the side, beaming with pride and reciting the answers to their questions in my mind while she reported them out loud. What's your fastest 400? Interval sprints? How are your grades? Ever lived out of state? Her face flushed red through all of it because she hates being the center of attention, but we prepared in advance, so she wasn't as nervous. She did great. Nobody but me could even tell she was nervous. Maybe after today she'll ease up on her crusade for emancipation. She's been relentless since the hair incident, and yesterday she gave me the papers to go over since my 17th birthday is only days away. She assumed I'd sign them and get them back to her, but I'm still not sure it's the best choice. I didn't mention it on our walk home. She deserved to have the moment she worked so hard for, even though she kept trying to lob it back to me, as if I had any credit for it. All I do is scream at the top of my lungs for her to run faster. I never could have done this without you, Nicole, she gushed as we logged the miles back to the farm just as the sun was beginning to set. Staying in shape during track season is easy since we basically have 2 practices every day. Mrs. Wheeler said we could run track, but she wouldn't pick us up after practices or games and that we would still be responsible for chores at night. We've had to walk home in the dark plenty of times, but we don't mind. It just means longer time away from the farm, even if we have to hurry through our chores on the nights we have meets and don't get to sleep until after midnight. All of it is worth it. You totally destroyed Natalie today, by the way, she told me. Your exchange with Polly was flawless, too. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun on top of her head. Loose strands twirled around her rosy cheeks, still flushed from all the excitement. I smiled at her. I didn't do anything special, not like she did. But she always refuses to see how amazing she is. She chattered on about all the things she wanted to do differently at our next race, but this was the one that mattered. It was the one Coach recorded for her reel that would go to all the college scouts who weren't there. Coach was as nervous as Crystal. Her win feels like the universe giving us an answer about emancipation. I want out as bad as she does, and it's so tempting to go now that we have a real opportunity to get out. But I want to go to college. Like, really want to go to college. And she does too. It's all we've talked about since 2nd grade. It's just hard for her to switch her brain into a different gear when she's got it set on something, and the last incident with Veronica pushed her over the edge. Her hair still hasn't fully grown back. But sometimes, she can only see what's in front of her and doesn't look at the bigger picture. I don't want to make the wrong move. Not after we've worked so hard. The tractor stutters and sputters as we round the corner and head down the next row. The rocks jostle in the trailer. She sticks her hand out the window and waves. The sun shines directly in my eyes in this direction, and I squint as I wave back. The horizon is nothing but blue skies divided by earth. Tomorrow, I'll tell her we should stick with our original plan. Tonight, we'll enjoy this.
12. Crystal.
How is she?
Aiden asks as soon as I walk into his hospital room. He made a dramatic turnaround 6 hours into his intravenous antibiotic treatment, and they moved him out of ICU and onto the burn unit last night. It's no surprise he doesn't know how Nicole's doing, because not a single one of his family members has come to see her. I check her visiting log every time I'm there, and I'm the only one who's visited since she got admitted 3 days ago. That's why I was so shocked to get Janice's text when I turned my phone on this morning. Aiden's out of ICU. Wants to see you. I don't know how many different responses I typed out and erased before finally settling on a simple thank you coupled with the praying hands emoji. I skipped my shower and headed straight to the hospital. While I drove, my thoughts danced in 100 different directions like they'd been doing ever since I saw the security camera footage. I forced myself to calm down. If I couldn't talk to Nicole, he was the next best thing, but I had to act normal. By the time I reached the parking lot, I'd managed to slow my heart rate and breathe regularly again. But all that left the minute I stepped into his room and saw him. His face is covered in thick white bandages with 2 small holes for his eyes and a larger one for his mouth. He looks like he's wearing a padded white ski mask. His left hand lies limp next to him, and it's covered in thick bandages similar to those on his face. But the right hand is the most disturbing. The fingernails are cracked and look painful, the fingers themselves ripped open in angry sores. They testify to how desperately he worked to get out of that burning room. "We'll talk about her in a second. How are you?" I ask, doing my best to keep my voice steady and even. He's attached to a monitor recording his vitals, oxygen, and heart rhythm. An IV stand drips a steady stream of fluid into his veins. There is an upholstered chair on either side of his bed. No windows in the room.
Being in a coma and having a tube down your throat is a nightmare.
His raspy voice bears the scar.
But I guess burning to death is probably worse, so...
He shrugs his shoulders playfully and tries to smile, but it looks like it hurts. He points to the chair on the right side of his bed.
"Sit down. You look so tense."
I barely slept at all last night. Melatonin had no effect. All I did was lie there staring at the ceiling and trying to wrap my brain around the possibility that Aiden was hurting Nicole. I need real legal guidance, but I'm not any closer to getting it. William's assistant sent me a formal email a few minutes ago saying that their law firm found a conflict of interest between one of the firm's lawyers and the Fisher team, so they can't represent Nicole. I immediately texted Teresa and told her to move on to our plan B, Eric Parker, and we should hear back today after they run a similar check. I take a seat in the chair that Aiden indicated and angle it slightly so I have a better view of his door and anyone coming in. Always have to see the door.
"Tell me how she is."
His eyes look weird peering out from the 2 holes in his face covering. And it takes me a second to notice it's because he doesn't have any eyelashes. Another half-second to realize why. How much did he suffer before passing out? I take a deep breath and try to maintain eye contact. He has to think I'm on his side. It's hard not to flinch at his appearance. It's been such a crazy 3 days. It feels like an entire lifetime has passed, and I don't even know where to start.
"Just start at the beginning,"
he prompts. Another deep breath. This one centers me more. Okay. Well, she was totally freaking out when they first brought you guys to the hospital, so they put her in the seclusion room on the psychiatric unit. Apparently, she attacked the paramedics and the emergency personnel who tried to treat her in the emergency room. I didn't get to see her until after 24 hours had passed, and she was still messed up. Super agitated, angry, very confused, saying all kinds of crazy things. She'd put huge scratches on her face and was doing the same thing to her arms, but luckily they caught her in enough time before she got too carried away like she did with her face. The image of her mangled face scars my brain and is constantly intruding into my thoughts without my permission. No doubt Aiden's face will take a turn in the rotation of invading images. They're still trying to figure out the right medication combination for her. So it's pretty much like she's suddenly bipolar on top of whatever else is going on with her mental state. But I'm not complaining. I'd rather have her this way than whatever they had her on in the beginning. That stuff made her drool. His eyes widen in horror. It's true, and we can't ever tell her because she'll be mortified. He nods in eager agreement. Hopefully they'll get it right soon. I mean, if you try enough combinations, eventually you have to, right?
"What has she been saying about things?"
I can't tell how he feels or what he's getting at. It's impossible to read someone's facial expressions when you can't see their eyebrows. Most of what she says still doesn't make any sense. Half the time she doesn't know where she is or what's going on around her. I purposely leave out the parts about him. He grimaces and grinds his jaw while he talks.
"As soon as I'm cleared by my team, I'm going to see her."
He cringes again and reaches for the black control thing lying on his chest and presses it. The air stills as we wait for the morphine to kick in. His arms tense. He starts coughing and works himself into a fit. He raises his unbandaged arm to his mouth and coughs into his elbow. A pitcher of water with plastic cups is on a tray beside the bed. I rush over and fill him a cup. His cough has worked its way into a wheeze. Should I call the nurse? I ask as I hand it to him. He shakes his head, taking a quick sip, followed by another. He holds his breath, trying to stave off the cough like it's the hiccups. Gradually, he settles down. Why does talking about Nicole work him up? Is it concern? Guilt?
Sorry.
He wipes his mouth with the back of his unbandaged hand. Don't apologize. I twist my hands on my lap, nervous all over again because I don't have any idea how to do this, and one of his family members could show up at any time. What happened, Aiden?
It's like I told the police. I don't remember much of it. I was really tired that night, so I went to bed early. I knocked out right away, and the next thing I know, I was waking up coughing and there was smoke everywhere.
The mention of coughing sends him into another brief fit that has to calm before he's able to continue talking.
I went to grab Nicole and wake her up, but she was gone. I jumped up and ran to the bathroom to see if she was in there, but she wasn't there either. That's when I ran for the door and discovered it was locked. I was trapped inside and couldn't get out. That's when I panicked. I beat the hell out of that door until I passed out.
His shoulders sag with defeat. There was a desk in front of the door. That's why you couldn't get out.
I know. The police told me that.
Any idea how the desk got there? I try to ask the question in the least lawyer-like way, but it's impossible.
I'm assuming Nicole.
He breaks eye contact. Is that what you told the police?
Of course it's what I told the police,
he says. My inability to read his expressions is infuriating. It's like talking to a still life painting.
I've got nothing to hide.
Implying he doesn't, but that Nicole does? Or what? I search his bandaged face for clues to what's going on inside him, but come up with none.
Look, Crystal, I know in any kind of domestic situation, everyone always looks at the husband. I know everyone's already thinking she tried to kill me to protect herself from me.
Nobody's thinking that, I lie. He motions for me to shut up.
Please, we both know that's what the investigators are trying to figure out. My parents and immediate family are the only ones who see me as the victim here, and aren't secretly wondering if I did something to get myself into such trouble with my wife. But I didn't do anything. I swear I didn't. She's sick, Crystal.
Okay. Well, then tell me what's going on, because the last time I saw her, she was perfectly fine, and now she's someone unrecognizable. There's no hiding my accusatory tone.
It all happened so quickly and spun out of control before I even had a chance to wrap my brain around it.
He drains what's left in his styrofoam cup.
I was just stumbling around in shock when she first started acting weird and didn't know what to do. Still don't. I was hoping she would come out of it, Crystal. I really was. At first I thought it was a drug reaction. Or something she ate. I even Googled it.
He lets out a dry laugh that brings another flinch of pain. This one makes him clutch his side.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but we ate chicken at a new restaurant the night before her first episode, and I had an upset stomach afterward, so I started thinking that maybe the salmonella traveled up to her brain and infected it. There are people that believe that theory, you know.
He cracks a smile.
Just not any credible ones.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this isn't bad chicken. I wish he'd stop making jokes, but I'm not surprised. He laughed at a funeral once. But what was she doing when everything started? What made you think something was wrong with her?
There might have been things going on that I didn't notice before. But the first time I noticed anything strange was a little over 2 weeks ago. I came up behind her in the bathroom while she was getting ready in the morning and scared her. I put my arms around her waist like I always do, and she literally jumped back like I'd burned her. That's how scared she got. It was way more scared than a normal jump scare, but it made sense given. Well, you know, all her issues.
He shifts his attention away from my eyes and to an imaginary spot on the bed. He doesn't like talking about Nicole's childhood. He's not an emotional guy, and anything intense is too much for him. So he avoids going there or spends all his time making stupid jokes to ease the tension. It was one of the traits Nicole loved so much when they were dating and things started getting serious. He didn't drill her with questions about what she'd been through, like she was a circus freak. That's why he was so safe for Nicole. She knew he'd never press her. She told me that once. So you really scared her, and then what? Nicole getting jump scared doesn't seem all that unusual to me. We both have a half-second startle response. How could we not with everything we've been through?
She looked at me like she had no idea who I was. It was the oddest thing, but I was in a hurry and knew I'd scared her, so I couldn't stay to see if anything else was going on. I gave her a quick peck on the cheek and took off. I thought about it on my drive to work, but I forgot about it as soon as I got there. Besides, it wasn't anything that was too dramatic or over the top, you know what I mean?
He searches my eyes like he's looking for approval.
It was like that for a couple days. She was weird and distant. I'd catch her muttering underneath her breath like she was talking to someone, and she was always on edge. Like, really on edge. I noticed that it was strange, but things were so busy at work that I let it go. I noticed it, but I let it go.
He trails off as he disappears into whatever memories are playing in his mind.
I keep kicking myself about it. Like maybe if I did something about it in those first few days, I could have stopped it. All I've done since I started getting better is research psychotic breaks, and you know what everything I've read says?
It's a rhetorical question. He doesn't wait for me to answer.
Early intervention is the key to successful treatment whenever you're dealing with psychosis. The key. Do you know how many times the experts said that? And I did nothing. What if I could have stopped this? What if this is all my fault?
You can't do that to yourself. It's not your fault. I will a straight face as my insides scream, how could you? If what he's saying is true, why didn't he do something about it the minute he noticed something was off with her? He might have been able to stop it. He should be kicking himself. He should be punching himself in the face right now.
Things kept getting weirder and weirder. She wasn't herself. She was paranoid. Wouldn't let me near her. She'd say things like, "Get away from me," and I never knew if she was talking to me or somebody else. Every noise made her jump. I kept asking her what was wrong, begging her to tell me, but she'd scream at me to get away from her, not to touch her.
His voice thickens with embarrassment that takes over the room.
Then about a week ago, I came home from work, and she'd locked herself in our bedroom. She taped a note to the door telling me to stay in the guest room and leave her alone. She'd moved all my clothes and things into the closet while I was at work. I hadn't seen her for an entire week up until the night of the fire.
Are you serious? He nods, refusing to make eye contact. Why didn't you call me? I could have helped. I could have gotten her out of her bedroom. Even if we couldn't figure out what was going on with her, at least I could have taken her to my house to stay. What were you thinking?
I was embarrassed. I know it sounds stupid, but I was embarrassed and so overwhelmed with all of it. You know how I get. I kept hoping she'd snap out of it, that it wasn't real, that I was making a bigger deal out of things than it was. I told myself a million different things while it was going on.
There's no hiding his shame.
Even as scared as I got when she was locking herself up, I never imagined anything like this happening.
You didn't see her at all for an entire week? How was that possible? There'd been many times when they'd gone without seeing each other for a week when he traveled, but never when they were in the same house.
Nope. But she came out of her room while I was at work, so that made me feel a little better. She was always back upstairs when I got home, but I could tell she'd been in the house because she'd leave the coffee maker on. Or one day she left her favorite throw crumpled up on the sofa where she'd been. Little things like that. It was the one thing that gave me hope that maybe she'd pull through whatever it was she was going through.
What was she doing in her room all that time? We texted a bunch of times that week, and she never once hinted she was in trouble. Not once. Why didn't she tell me she was in trouble? That's the part that doesn't add up. What about the night the fire started? Take me through it.
It was pretty much a regular night for what was becoming the new normal. I came home to an empty house, made dinner, and ate it in front of the TV in the living room while I watched golf. She came downstairs halfway through the highlight reel and said she was having trouble falling asleep.
Did she look sleepy? I interrupt.
Not really. She still had that half-crazed look in her eyes, but I didn't care because I was so happy that she wanted me anywhere near her. I tried to get her to sit down next to me, but that's not what she wanted. She asked if I would go upstairs and lie with her until she fell asleep. I jumped at the opportunity. I was literally giddy on my way up the stairs, but I kept trying to play it off like I wasn't.
His expression falls.
I should have known something was up when she asked me to come upstairs with her. That should have been my first clue.
Yes, it should have, dummy. He probably thought he was going to get laid, and that pull drowned out everything else. How can men be so stupid? I try not to show my disgust when I ask, "What was she like when you got up there?"
She didn't want to talk or do anything else. She turned off the lights and got straight into bed. It felt nice to tumble into bed with her because I was so exhausted. I wanted to touch her, but I was scared. Not because I wanted to have sex.
He pauses and makes a dramatic production to make sure I've gotten his point, since he knows how I get about men getting hyper-focused on sex. I give him a look that says I don't believe him.
All I wanted to do was hold her, and I was shocked when she let me put my arms around her. I remember thinking how good she smelled, how much I'd missed her. I miss her.
He gets choked up. I put my hand on top of his bandaged hand since it seems less painful to touch than the other one.
I know you do,
I say, patting it lightly.
I do too.
Questions chase each other and fight for space in my head. His story lines up perfectly with what I saw on the videos. Is it because it's the truth, or because he knows that's what everyone will find, so he has to create an explanation for it that fits?
13. Nicole. Then. Crystal shakes with sobs and claws at my chest like she's trying to crawl inside my body and hide. I'm crying as hard as she is, and there's snot everywhere. We're a disgusting mess because we don't have any Kleenex, so we just keep rubbing our snot on our sleeves. The high from yesterday crashes to the ground and takes all the light with it at the sound of the pigs squealing. Mr. Johnson showed up with his truck today, and we both know what that means. But it wasn't always that way. The pigs used to be our favorite animals. Crystal read in one of her library books that pigs are smarter than dogs. I don't know about all pigs, but our pigs are way smarter than the 2 collies running around the farm, and I've never seen any of the pigs chase their own tail. We have at least 6 sows on the farm at all times, so one of them is always pregnant and having babies. There's nothing cuter than a little pink piglet after birth. They have huge litters, and the last one born usually dies, but sometimes it lives. Crystal and I used to rescue all the runts that survived so they wouldn't die. Pigs aren't like other animals that abandon their runts when they're too small, but their chances of survival are just as bad. They've got to be strong and quick enough to move out of the way when their 600-pound mamas sit down or they get crushed. We bottle-fed the little ones to give them extra nutrients and fatten them up, making up for the milk they couldn't get from their mamas. We carried them around with us underneath our t-shirts, pressing their hot little bodies against our chests and falling asleep with them at night after we successfully snuck them into the house. And they survived. Every single one. We'd watch proudly when they rejoined their siblings after they were strong enough, and they almost always overtook them in weight. They started out smaller than the bunch, but our love made them bigger and stronger. Until the day we had to stop loving them, because it hurt too much. We might have lived a few more years in blissful ignorance if Veronica hadn't taken it upon herself to tell us what happened to the pigs when they disappeared. See, every now and then, we'd get up in the morning and half our pigs were gone, like they'd vanished without a trace during the night. Mrs. Wheeler told us she raised pigs for money to be adopted by other families. So once they were a certain age, they were sent to other farms like ours to be raised by their forever families. It made sense to us since we figured maybe Mrs. Wheeler got paid per pig, so that's why she kept letting the mamas have more. And we couldn't have the pigs taking over the farm, so why not? One of the sows had just delivered another litter of 12 piglets. She was a beast through labor, and Crystal and I were over the moon because we'd gotten to be there the moment it happened. We'd learned to recognize the signs that they were pregnant, and it definitely wasn't hard to recognize the signs at the end, since they looked even more ginormous and ready to burst. Catching a live birth was one of the best things to look forward to on the farm, and we bolted out of bed at 5 every morning to see if we'd missed it during the night. This was the third birth we'd caught, and we'd watched as Mrs. Wheeler moved the sow into the farrowing crates for the mama to nurse now that it was over. Tears glistened in both our eyes. Veronica came around the corner and caught the moment. "You know what they're doing with the pigs tonight, don't you?" she asked, as she took in our bloodied clothes and turned up her nose in disgust. She didn't care about watching live births. She didn't care about any of the animals, not like we did. Crystal and I looked at each other, trying to communicate without speaking, but neither of us had any idea what she was talking about. Was it a trap? We turned our attention back to her. "They are all going to die tonight," she announced, with smug satisfaction, crossing her arms on her scrawny chest. I recoiled in horror. "Don't say that, that's awful." She let out a dry laugh. "That's what they do to all the pigs. You didn't know that?" She shifted her gaze to Crystal, who shared the same horrified expression as me. "And you didn't tell her?" "Shut up, Veronica, there's nothing to tell," Crystal snaps. Veronica loved pitting us against each other. Veronica shook her head and gave us her most pitying stare. "Poor sad souls. You really don't know, do you?" My knees trembled. Insides shook. I wanted her to go away. Just go away. Stop talking with her ugly, skinny mouth and her stupid voice. Hate filled me. "They kill every single one of those pigs that's born here. All your little babies." She made a slicing motion across her neck. Crystal jumped at her like she was going to punch her, and I pulled her back before she could. She strained against me, swinging wildly at her. I squeezed even tighter as she bucked, bracing my feet so she wouldn't make us fall. "Don't believe me? Why don't you have a look in the barns tonight after you go to bed and my mom thinks you're sleeping?" She didn't wait for us to respond before walking away. We did everything we could to get her words out of our heads and just go to bed that night. We really did. We tried pretending she was lying, that we didn't believe her. Crystal kept saying it was just another one of her dirty tricks. But we couldn't shake the seed she'd planted. We had to know if it was true. We pretended to go to bed like we always did, and held our breath after we'd turned out the lights, waiting for any sound of movement in the house, still holding on to the last shred of hope that Veronica was only trying to hurt us, that she'd made it all up. As time stretched on, it looked like we might get our wish. And then we heard it. The loud creak of the living room floor where you crossed the living room and moved into neutral living space. Someone was up. We strained our ears in silence as we heard the front door open and close. We didn't speak as we followed each other outside and crept along in the dark after Mrs. Wheeler's bulky frame. She was out of her nightgown, dressed in her usual uniform of flannel and blue jeans. Crystal and I clung to each other, relying on memory and moonlight to get to the barn. We eased our way all the way to the back, where the water tanks hummed. It was the best odds for not getting caught. All the lights were on in the barn. We should have just stopped. But we didn't. Steam rose up from the huge tubs that we bathed the sows in before every county fair in the summer. The air was stuffy like a sauna. Why did they have it turned up so hot? They couldn't put them into tubs that hot. It'd burn their skin. The barn door slid open, and one of the hired hands pulled Bessie along into the barn. We had raised Bessie since she was a baby, and she'd grown into one of our most prized pigs. Mrs. Wheeler pulled out a taser gun and shot her in the butt with it. Bessie let out a squeal that will be seared in my brain for eternity. I turned on my heels and pushed out the door, running as fast as I could with Crystal right behind me. She was always faster, but she couldn't catch me that night. I flew through the forest behind the barn instead of heading to the house, stumbling and tripping over things in the darkness while I tried to outrun the screams of my beloved pig being led to slaughter. My lungs burned, chest heaved. My legs were on fire, but I didn't stop. Not until Crystal fly-tackled me from behind, coming to land on top of me. She rolled off me quickly. "Stop," she said, in between gasping breaths. How had we missed it? It had been right under our noses all along, and we'd never seen it, hadn't imagined. It was crueler than any prank Veronica had pulled on us. We stopped eating all pork. The smell of it made me gag. Once Mrs. Wheeler made us eat hot dogs even though I cried and begged her not to make me do it. I got it all down, the entire thing, but my body betrayed me, and within seconds everything from my dinner was heaving onto the table and splattering all over the floor. I sprinted to the bathroom, spraying vomit along the way. Mrs. Wheeler never made us eat pork again. Our days of ham sandwiches were over. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches became our staple lunch. The memories replay themselves on repeat like they've done over all these years since making our first discovery. We thought it'd get easier if we stopped taking care of the pigs, if we tried to treat them like they were nothing and we didn't care anything about them or what happened to them. But it doesn't matter. 2 days of slaughter every 3 months still shake us to our core. Crystal and I stare in silence at our bowls of cereal in front of us, still reeling from the night before. Neither of us will eat today, even if we try. Mrs. Wheeler already left to go fishing. Her fishing days coincide with the quarterly slaughters. They take all night, and she heads to the river when it's finished, like fishing is some kind of redemption for her sins. I don't know how sitting around killing fish while the sun rises makes up for killing pigs, but it doesn't do any good to ask questions. It's better to just accept things as they are and move on. Veronica sits at the table, flipping through her history textbook and going over her notes for the test she has in 3rd period. Last year, we discovered that she sneaks out during these nights to watch. It hadn't taken us long to figure out the pig farm process. The clues had been there all along. We'd just never imagined something so horrific could exist. As soon as the piglets are around 6 months old and fattened up, Mr. Johnson starts coming around. He used to pretend to take pennies out of our ears when we were little girls, and it was creepy even before we knew what his presence signaled on the farm. We had no idea he had anything to do with the pig adoption. It wasn't until afterward that we put the two together. Mrs. Wheeler told us that the pigs were shipped off during the night while we were sleeping, so we wouldn't have to see them get taken away. Thoughts of Mrs. Wheeler summon her presence, and she walks through the mudroom at the back of the kitchen. I keep my eyes glued on my bowl. I'm not ready to look at her again yet. It's moments like these that she feels like a murderer, and the hate that I usually keep buried surges to the surface. "Good morning," she says as a formality to Crystal and me, before changing her focus and tone to Veronica. "Darling, I forgot to tell you that I ran into Alice Greer's mother yesterday at the supermarket. We got to talking about how the two of you are so in love with the new Cowboy Bebop, which made me think that we should get you girls together on Friday to watch the new episode. What do you think?" Veronica glares up from her spot at the table. "No thanks," she says, but everyone at the table already knows where this is heading. Normally, Veronica is the boss, and what she says goes, no matter what, except when it comes to this. Mrs. Wheeler doesn't miss a beat. "I knew you'd be happy about it. I'm going to take a shower to wash the smell of fish off me, but as soon as you girls are at school, I'll give her mother a call. Hopefully we can arrange it for Friday. Won't that be so much fun?" She skips off down the hallway before Veronica has time to answer. I catch Crystal's eye and shake my head. "Here we go again," I mouth. Mrs. Wheeler will set up some awful playdate for Alice to come home with us after school, I'm sure, and it will only end disastrous. They always do.
14. Crystal. Time is warped in the regular hospital, and 5 days of psychiatric visits are unlike anything I've experienced before. Life on the ward means you adjust to the weirdest stuff without even trying. Like Hilda. She's a middle-aged white woman who walks around the community room spitting on the floor. I barely notice her anymore, and even when I do, there's no reaction. I asked Dr. McGowan once, "Why spit?" And he told me she thinks it's poison, so she's trying to kill the nurses with it. I'm alone in the community room and grateful for a chance to collect myself before they bring Nicole in. I've been sitting here for the last hour trying to figure out how to bring Aiden up in a way that doesn't set her off. It's my job to keep her safe, but I can't keep her safe if I don't know who I'm keeping her safe from. And I'm still on the fence about whether or not Aiden was telling the truth this morning. Dread fills my gut when Nicole walks into the room with Mia. Staff providing direct observation have to be specially trained and certified, so there's only a few of them on the unit. I like Mia because she's so friendly, but she's also one of the nosiest. Most of them take a chair and slide it within the 2-foot distance that's allowed between them and their assigned patient. But not Mia. She snuggles up close and gets right in on the conversation. I was hoping we'd get Earl or Derek. Sandra would have been best. She couldn't care less about your conversations and might be the only person I've met in real life who could sleep with their eyes open. "Hi, Crystal," Mia says, lighting up when she sees me. "Hi, Mia. Good to see you," I say, watching as Nicole shuffles into the room with her head hung low and her eyes glued to the dirty linoleum floor. Nicole pulls out the chair and sits next to me, eyes still downcast. She clutches her stomach like it hurts. "Hey, hun, how are you?" I ask, giving her a side hug. She's stiff and rigid against me. Mia takes a seat across from her. "Hi," she says in her new tiny voice, the only one she speaks in now when she's calm. She lays her head against my shoulder. Normally, I'd run my hands through her hair, but it's too matted with knots, so I stroke the side of her head like she's Hobbs. "Rough morning?" I ask, even though they all seem rough to me. She gives an almost imperceptible nod. Mia eyes the room before pulling her phone out of her pocket and holding it underneath the table. She busies herself trying to peek at something on her screen while still pretending to watch Nicole. Staff aren't allowed to use their phones during their shifts for obvious reasons, but they're always trying to grab a quick fix like a bunch of crackheads who've gone without a hit for too long. I can't believe my good luck. Nicole is much more likely to talk to me if no one else can hear. I lean my head down near her face and whisper into her hair, "We need to talk, and it's really important." I rub my hand up and down her arm, hoping to ground her, get her present. Her lids are heavy, her face slack. They must have given her something to calm her nerves for the test. "Did you hear me, honey?" I ask, keeping my eyes on Mia. She's still occupied. No response. "Nikki, if you're in there and you can hear me, can you just hold my pinky? That's all. Just take my pinky." I hold my breath for what seems like minutes until I feel the softness of her pinky hook itself with mine. I hold back the urge to squeal. "Okay, good, sweetie, that's good." I speak in a frenzied whisper. Now that I've got her, I have to keep her. "You don't even have to say anything. All you have to do is squeeze my pinky if the answer is yes." I take a deep breath. "Was Aiden hurting you? Did you set the fire so you could escape?" She shoves me off her and jumps up, instantly springing to life. She towers over me. "Did he tell you to say that?" Her eyes dart around the room. Every muscle in her body is tense, ready to fight. No. He didn't. Nobody told me to do anything. I'm sorry." I grab for her hand, but she jerks it away and steps backward. Her eyes bulge. "He did, didn't he? Where is he? How do you know? Why her? That one? Jesus!" Mia gets up from her chair and takes a slow step in Nicole's direction, motioning for me to stay in my seat. "Nicole, let's have you sit back down, okay?" She takes another cautious step toward her like she's an animal needing to be tamed. "I want you to focus on my voice and on what I'm saying to you. Can you listen to my voice and be here with me?" She shakes her head wildly as Mia moves closer to her. Nicole leaps back just as she's within Mia's reach. Her pupils widen until her eyes look almost black, and then she's gone, crossing over some invisible line in her mind. The madness contorts the features on her face. She starts inhaling rapidly with no exhale. Her fists are clenched at her sides, arms shaking. Mia reaches into her pocket and triggers the alarm fob that staff carry with them at all times. Within seconds, the security team, one white, one black, both huge, appears in the doorway. Nicole senses their presence and scuttles to the back of the room. She grabs one of the chairs and stands behind it, plastering herself against the wall. Her entire body tenses and moves in jerking motions like she's having some kind of spasm. And, just like that, the security men attack. Their muscled bodies envelop hers, and she lets out an ear-piercing scream. It takes two of them to restrain her, even though she's nothing but bones. Arms and legs flail everywhere. I don't want to watch, but I can't look away. The one with the crew cut grabs her arms tightly around her back and pins her to the floor. My scream bubbles out of me. "Don't hurt her! Please stop hurting her!" As soon as she's down, his partner moves in with a needle that seems to appear from out of nowhere. In one swift movement, he pulls up her nightgown and stabs the syringe into her thigh. In the movies, when that happens, the person immediately gets knocked out. End of story. But that's not the case with Nicole. It does nothing to stop the fight coursing through her. The sounds coming out of her mouth aren't human. Crew Cut digs his knee into her back while his partner gives her another shot. Her face is smashed against the nasty floor, and spittle hangs from the corner of her mouth as she lets out muffled screams. Mia puts her hand gently on my shoulder, and I appreciate the kind gesture. It's hard to watch Nicole struggle against the drugs making their way through her body. I instinctively move toward her to help, but Mia motions for me to sit down. "I know this is hard to watch, but you either have to leave or stay in your seat. she says like she wishes she didn't have to. Nicole lies on the ground. A knee in her back, face smashed on the floor. Her body spasms and stills, spasms and stills. Eyes unseeing. "It's okay, Nicole," I cry just as her eyes roll back in her head and she disappears into a land where I can't follow. 15. Crystal. I'm trying to appear calm and collected as I wait to meet Eric Parker. But the jiggling of my leg is a dead giveaway, and it's out of my control. I've met with high-powered attorneys when millions of dollars were at stake and wasn't this nervous. But this is Nicole's life, and she's circling the drain. Part of her may have already gone down. The fit she threw in the community room was nothing in comparison to the one she threw as they dragged her down the hallway. The shots that knocked her out in the community room only got them halfway down the corridor before she sprang back to life, like she'd been infused with electricity. I was at the nurse's station signing myself out when her blood-curdling screams shook the unit and reverberated down the hallways. A patient in a room adjacent to hers let out a responsive scream that was equally chilling, followed by another one. Within seconds, staff were rushing to his room to contain him, while the attendants battled through round 2 with Nicole. Their large bodies were no match for hers, and she bit at them like a rabid dog when they came near her. It took all their combined strength to hold her hands behind her back and press her up against the wall. In one swift movement, Nicole bashed her head into the nose of one of them, sending blood squirting everywhere. She let out a squeal of glee. In that moment, her eyes caught mine, and she suddenly popped into reality with a look of pure terror. They tore her off the wall and threw her into her room. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Teresa called just as I made it through the parking lot, and it took her over 10 minutes to calm me down on the phone. Another 10 for me to figure out the reason for her call. We'd gotten the green light to proceed with retaining Eric Parker because he doesn't have any connections to the Fisher family. I glance at my watch for the 3rd time. It's only been 2 minutes since I checked, but it feels like so much more time has passed. I'm still reeling from Nicole's explosive episode. They get more disturbing every time I see them, and my words do nothing to soothe her or bring her back to reality. I'm supposed to be her anchor to the ground. What happens if that's gone? Before I have a chance to spiral further down the rabbit hole of what-ifs, the door opens and a tall, lean man struts confidently into the reception area.
"I'm Eric Parker,"
he greets me, sticking out his hand. He's got a firm grip, strong shake. That's what I like.
"And you must be Crystal?"
I am, I say, standing and smoothing down the front of my skirt. Thankfully, I had enough time after Teresa's phone call to go home, take a shower, and get myself together before this meeting, because I was a mess. I cried the entire way home from the hospital.
"You first,"
he says, making a sweeping gesture to the door and into his office. Muscular biceps peek out from underneath his shirt. His office is smaller than the reception area. A boxy wooden desk takes up most of the space, and the bookshelves lining an entire wall give the place an even more claustrophobic feel. The blinds on the window are closed, and if I knew him better, I'd ask him to open them, since I hate enclosed space and artificial light. Windowless rooms are the worst. We easily slide into our designated spots, me in front of the desk, him behind. A standing fan in the corner blasts air throughout the room and creates a hum in the background. If I didn't trust Teresa's judgment so much, I'd be second-guessing her decision at calling him our best plan B. But she swears he has raving reviews, and she spoke personally with some of them. His desk is meticulously uncluttered, and he pulls a yellow legal pad out of one of the drawers.
"So why don't you just take me back to the beginning and tell me what's going on?"
he says, grabbing a pen out of his shirt pocket and getting poised to write, like a therapist taking notes. "My sister is Nicole Fisher, and her house started on fire last week, but I'm pretty sure you already covered that with Teresa." He nods. His red shirt complements his brown skin. She got out, but her husband, Aiden, was trapped inside for a while before he was rescued. He was in pretty bad shape up until yesterday, but thankfully he's made a turn for the better, and doctors are hopeful for his recovery. Aiden texted me on the drive home from the hospital to let me know he had Janice's phone with him and to give him a call as soon as I could. My sister didn't get hurt, but she freaked out on the paramedics and first responders at the scene. They put her on a 72-hour hold at Riverside East that has now come and gone, but the psychiatric hold is still in place because they consider her dangerous, and as much as I hate it, she needs it. She's bashed her head on things more than once since she's been admitted. She's even attacked me. My words come out so fast they trip over each other. I just want to bring him up to speed as quickly as possible so we can start figuring out how to help Nicole. She's in really bad shape. She hears voices and sees things that aren't there. Her level of paranoia is off the charts, and she freaks out anytime you ask her about Aiden, going into these explosive rages. It took 3 grown men to restrain her this afternoon. Eric's eyes haven't left mine. They're attentive and kind as they peer out from black-rimmed glasses, the opposite of William Jenkins's hard eyes leaping off the billboard screen. Shouldn't Eric have a little bit of an edge to him? She's a shell of a person when she isn't psychotic. She never smiles or frowns, doesn't give any sign of wanting anything. It's like she disappears in and out of herself all day long. Talking about it brings all my emotions to the surface, and I fight back tears. Crying in front of him is the last thing I'm trying to do.
I'm sorry you're having to go through all this,
he says. Thank you, I respond, appreciating his kindness. The detective assigned to her case is convinced she's the one that started the fire, and that she did it on purpose. He raises his eyebrows.
Why is that? Because of her mental state?
No, it's because of the evidence they found at the scene. The fire was started with gasoline that had been dumped all over their master bedroom, and she was covered in gasoline when the paramedics arrived. She had a lighter in her pocket, and she admitted to doing it.
What do you think?
Honestly, I'm pretty sure she was the one to set the fire. It's the first time I've said it out loud, and it strips away my last shred of denial about the seriousness of her situation. The world shifts underneath my feet. Nicole will never be the same, no matter how this ends. The life we knew is gone. This is a marker in the sand.
Are you sure?
I mean, I'm not 100% sure. But I've gone through all the security footage, and nobody comes in or out of their house on the night of the fire. In fact, no one goes into their house except Aiden the entire week leading up to it, so they were definitely the only 2 people in the house at the time. There's no way Aiden did it, because there was a desk in front of their door barricading him inside, so it'd be impossible. I just don't know why she did it. He jots something down on his pad.
Any ideas? Was he hurting her? Drugs? Her mental break?
There are lots of other potential reasons, but he cuts his list short at the most probable. Definitely not drugs. She doesn't touch them, never has. There's no question that she's in the throes of a psychosis. But here's the thing. She's genuinely terrified of Aiden. I've never seen her so scared. She loses it if you even mention his name. She's called him a murderer on more than one occasion. At first, I thought it was just part of her psychosis like everything else. But what if there's some truth to her terror? What if he was hurting her?
Self-defense?
He cocks his head to the side. I nod and lean forward in my chair. I don't know how much of the past footage the investigators looked at, but I went back as far as I could go, and Nicole doesn't leave the house for an entire week leading up to the fire. That's really unusual for her. No, not unusual, unheard of. She walks every day and spends most of her time during the day sitting outside in their backyard, but she doesn't do any of that. I can't help but wonder if Aiden was keeping her locked up inside so that she couldn't get out.
So she had to start the fire to get free?
Relief passes through me that he doesn't think my idea is crazy. It's definitely a possibility. He takes a moment to think before speaking.
I checked the court docket this morning to see if any charges have been filed against Nicole because the first place they'll show up is on the register, and so far nothing's been filed. Have any police or detectives spoken with her?
Detective Sparks has tried, but I don't think anyone else has. As far as I know, anyway. But there's no way to tell whether what she's saying is based on fact or whatever delusional world she's living in at the moment. That's why I don't think anyone should be able to talk to her. Can we stop that from happening?
Not exactly, but we can prevent anyone talking to her without me present.
He scribbles something down again.
Our first order of business is to file a notice of application with the court for mental incompetency. It's a lengthy process, just like any other motion, and sometimes a verdict can take a significant amount of time. Filing a notice puts her competency trial on the calendar for within 30 days of filing, and it alerts everyone involved in the case that we are approaching the case from a place of mental incompetency.
What happens then?
Mental incompetency works in her favor. Anything she may or may not have said to incriminate herself while she's been in the hospital is going to be considered within that context and not considered valid testimony about what happened. It's going to make sure any interviews with investigators happen very differently than how they would normally occur, given the competency issues. Mainly, she'll never be alone, and a psychiatrist will always have to be present for any type of questioning or formal interviews. She'll be entitled to breaks and other things that other people in her similar position wouldn't, because we've established her fragile mental state.
Nicole would be insulted about being referred to as anything remotely related to being fragile. People think of redheads as fragile and exotic. Maybe it's the pale skin that they associate with frailty. But Nicole is anything but fragile. She is fierce. Her personality matches her fiery red hair, exploding like lava when she gets upset.
The most important part is we've established from the very beginning that she's mentally incompetent and therefore didn't know the difference between right and wrong at the moment she was committing the crime. In addition, she didn't have the ability to recognize that her actions were happening in the real world with real-life consequences. Her incompetency will already be confirmed before any trial happens.
How do you know they're even going to press attempted murder charges? I mean, Aiden looks like he's going to be fine. He's got some serious rehabilitation in front of him, but none of his injuries are permanent except the burns on his face.
Charging Nicole can happen whether or not Aiden is better. Attempted murder is attempted murder regardless of Aiden's condition. It's not based on the severity of his condition after the attempt, and they don't need his permission to charge her. He's not the one who gets to decide.
The information is coming so fast. Then who gets to decide all this?
Ultimately, it's up to the district attorney's office.
He leans forward across the desk and speaks in a furtive tone.
And I'm going to be really honest with you, Crystal. The Fishers are one of the most prominent families in the community. It's highly unlikely that this case is not going to result in attempted murder charges against your sister.
My mouth goes dry. Even if Aiden is fine and doesn't want her to be charged?
Even if Aiden is fine.
He nods.
He doesn't get to decide what they do.
I let his words sink in. And remind me what that carries?
First degree is life with the possibility of parole. So most first degreers usually do around 10 years. With second degree, she'd be looking at anywhere from 5 to 7 years.
He props his elbows up on his desk and folds his hands, resting his chin on top. Once she's declared incompetent, does that stay on her record forever? I mean, she's a school teacher. I'm not sure if you know that or not, but something like that on her record would ruin her career. He reaches across the table and takes my hand in his in a commanding yet comforting way.
Crystal, her career is over. Forget the murder charges and mental incompetency. She's looking at felony arson no matter what if she started that fire.
I slowly exhale. Sometimes I still can't believe this is happening. He nods and gives me a moment of pause before continuing.
I hate to ask you this, but it's going to come up, especially if the Fishers are digging around.
His eyes peer into mine.
Is this the first time she's done something like this? Or does she have a history of violence and mental illness? Anything in her past that might hint at a pattern?
I force myself to maintain eye contact. He doesn't have to tell me that it will be more difficult for her if there is. I'm not saying she's a perfect person. She definitely has her flaws just like everyone else, and there are times when she's not the happiest person. but not anything that isn't within the realm of normal experience. She's never saw any kind of mental health treatment or been through anything like this.
How about violence? Any aggression?
He's studying my face in the same way I sit across the table and study my clients when I want to know if they're telling the truth. She's got one of the biggest hearts on the planet, and she'd never hurt anyone. My deceit settles like a cold stone in the pit of my stomach. But I can't open that box. Not now. The last pieces of our life will come crumbling down. I've never been more grateful that our juvenile records are sealed.
16. Nicole. Then. Alice's chubby legs hurry to keep up with Veronica as we leave school, but Veronica isn't making any effort to slow down. She hasn't said anything to her since we left the lockers. Even then, she only mumbled hi and then said she liked her elbows, which is about the weirdest thing you could say to someone. Why can't she at least try to be normal? Alice gives up trying to catch Veronica and starts walking next to Crystal and me instead. She's already breathing hard, and the farm is over 2 miles from school. Probably closer to 3. She has no idea what she's gotten herself into, and I feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for all of them. Freckles dot her pudgy cheeks. She has long, dirty blonde hair that swings past her shoulders as she struggles to keep up with us, even at the slower pace. I saw you in the paper last week, Crystal. That was a great picture. I can't believe how fast you can run, she gushes. She's got the same starry-eyed look that all the nerdy younger kids get when they're around Crystal. Thanks, Crystal says. The tips of her ears are red. She gets so embarrassed when people compliment her. You'd think she was used to it by now, but nope, not even close. I'm no good at running. Never have been. Do they make you run the mile in PE here? Her questions are punctuated by her hurried breaths. My old school made us run the mile twice every year. So awful. I hated it. I hope I don't have to do it here. You guys probably love doing it though, huh? You're like, yes, please, can we run? She giggles nervously and waits for one of us to say something. But we keep silent, smiling and nodding in unison. We plod past Al's Diner on the corner of 9th Avenue and make it halfway down the next block before Alice can't take the silence any longer. She cuts in at St. John's Presbyterian Church and rattles on for the next 2 miles, barely stopping to take a breath. She goes on and on about all the characters in the anime she watches, assuming we're into it too, since the playdate hinges on anime. But it's not my thing. Crystal can't stand it either, because she hates anything with subtitles, but we nod and smile in the appropriate places like well-trained puppets. She's one of those kids who has always lived in town and never been in the country. They act like Vernon is the size of New York City and coming out to the farm is a foreign trip. Once they get here, they want to run all over the farm because they love all the animals. So, we make the rounds with them through the barns so they can pet the cows and feed the sheep grazing in the back. The chickens are always a big hit until they step inside their pens and realize how much it stinks. The chickens aren't nearly so cute then.
This is the end of disc number 3. Please insert disc number 4.